Welcome, everyone, to Truro Town Council for Monday, April 7th, 2025. Before we begin our agenda today, I, Kathy Joy Henton, Mayor of the Town of Truro, acknowledge we are on Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. We acknowledge the peace and friendship treaties and recognize we are all treaty people. We recognize African Nova Scotians are a distinct people whose histories, legacies, and contributions have enriched this part of Mi'kma'ki, known as Nova Scotia, for over 400 years. Now we are going to enter into a public hearing this afternoon. This public hearing is for the MPS LUB, the Land Use Bylaw Amendment. Has this been advertised, Mr. Dolter?
Yes, Madam Mayor, it has.
Do we have any correspondence?
Yes, there is some correspondence. So just as far as the public notice goes, there was a public hearing notice that advised both on the town's website and our other social media platforms. They provided the details of the amendments, and they can be found on the town's website under our community notices. And there was also a public information session that was held on the 27th of January from 5 to 6:30 in the town council chambers. We do have a motion concurring with the recommendations made by staff on the amendments that came from the Truro Planning Advisory Committee, and they were recommended for approval unanimously by the committee.
Thank you very much. We'll now start with a report from the Planning Department and then an opportunity for council to ask questions and anyone in council chambers to ask questions. Due to a full agenda, we are asking everyone in the gallery to keep their questions to a minimum of 10 minutes, and I will be very stringent on that. Because we have our budget agenda for today. Director Fox, if you're prepared to give your report, we'd appreciate that, please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just going to go through my presentation. I'm not going to go through all the detailed amendments, but I will provide some background information. So just in terms of background, on November 6th, 2023, Council approved a new community plan for the town that included a new municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw. Staff have been working with the new plan for about a year now. And during this time, we've identified a number of non-substantial errors that need to be corrected. So we call these housekeeping amendments. The process of identifying these issues in a new plan is typically referred to as a follow-up review, and the set of amendments to correct these are often referred to, as I mentioned, housekeeping amendments. And the amendments described in the report that's been circulated to council will help ensure that the town's plan policies and regulations are clear, effective, and accurately set out council's vision for the growth and development of the town over the next coming decade. So just in terms of process, where we are, it's the same process that you would take to adopt a new plan. So where we are right now in this process is we've done the initial review by the Planning Advisory Committee. We've had a public information meeting. We had the final recommendation by the Planning Advisory Committee, and now we're at the fourth step, which is the public hearing by council. Today we'll also hopefully have a decision by council. And just to remind everyone that there is no appeal process for a plan amendment process. And the land use bylaw amendments that are to implement the the amendment to the municipal planning strategy are also not subject to appeal. So the next steps would be council makes a decision on the proposed amendment package. The notice of approval would be advertised. A copy of the approved amendments would then be forwarded to the province for review and potentially may require ministerial approval. There is no appeal process for a municipal planning strategy amendment, excuse me for the typo there. That's it for my presentation, unless council wants me to go through each of the specific amendments, but as I mentioned, they are housekeeping amendments in nature, so I'm not sure you want me to go through them all. If you have specific questions about them, I'm happy to respond to those.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. We'll now open it up for questions from members of council. Okay. Councillor Pryor.
Thank you. Mr. Fox, on an amendment in clause 3127, where it says about a shipping container may be used or occupied as a main building, provided the shipping container is converted, erected, occupied, and used in accordance with this bylaw in the National Building Code and all other applicable bylaws of the town. Does this allow a shipping container as a main dwelling in the downtown neighborhood?
It's not permitted in the downtown neighborhood, no. There are specific architectural requirements that have to be met in the downtown neighborhood zone, and those would require basically adhering to one of, I think there's 8, maybe 16 different styles of housing that you have to kind of match to fit into the to the historic districts of the downtown neighborhood zone.
Thank you. And one other one. Could you explain the circumstance when a developer would be required to apply for a development agreement for 50 units or less in the future growth area?
So the 2 future growth areas have conceptual plans assigned to them. So there's one for the east end and there's one for the south end of town. So there's 2 conceptual plans which are set out in the land use bylaw. In a situation where you had a multi-unit development proposal that didn't conform with those plans or precluded the option to implement those plans in the future, the applicant would be required to go through a development agreement to get those permitted, to show how there's an alternate way that they can comply with the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Mr. Fox. Is there any other questions from council? I don't see any. Okay. Now I'm going to open it up. Are there any questions from the persons in the gallery that would like to speak? Okay, come on forward. Yeah. Welcome. Have a seat. And if you just want to push that little button to get your light on. That's great. Yeah, just push it and I'll get the... There we go, there we go. If you can just state your name.
Deborah Smith, I'm a Truro resident.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Smith. Go ahead.
I would kind of make a strong suggestion that this is some of the components of this document is not.
Do you want to move your little mic right a little closer, please?
Sorry.
And just push it down so you're speaking.
I'm just
There you go.
recovering from a cold.
Oh, that's okay, yep.
So I would make the position that some of the components of this document are not housekeeping, and that they have a significant impact to Truro residents. Like usual, when I come here, I've put my comments in writing, and I'll read them, and I'll go through them as quickly as I can and within the time frame as
Thank you.
outlined. In 2017, the CBCL floodplain study at a taxpayer cost of well over $430,000 was gutted by council. The majority of key fundamental aspects of the study were removed. For public safety and protecting residents, the study prohibited residential development in the E2 zones and allowed very limited commercial development. Developers have the resources and ability to protect their investment. Almost all homeowners have no such options and are put at increased risk, with council either ignoring or manipulating the CBCL study, and instead you're using the components of a 30-year-old study. This makes no rational sense. I have substantial doubts that the new mapping proposed here is correct, but if it is, it's now outdated. Last October, the province provided new mapping that was put in place because of the death of 5 individuals, 4 of them children, from flooding. This is the mapping that should be used, not what's being proposed here. Homeowners are losing their insurance, property values will be impacted, seniors, children will be at greater personal risk, and the newest concern is expropriation of their property. The CBCL study speaks at length about stormwater management, not just on the floodplain, but also in other vulnerable areas of town where new developments should carry some of the cost for upgrading the necessary infrastructure, and this is not happening. By my count, there are approximately 1,000 homes, families on the floodplain that are now at increased risk. And just as a side note, this is more homes than are at flooding risk in the HRM area. That council is now acknowledging their mistakes in allowing development in flood-prone areas and are bringing in new rules, starting along the Sackville River. There are also other homes in Truro, not on the floodplain, but also at increased risk, because you're choosing to not follow the studies and plans that this town council has talked about that would protect them. Here are some of the issues that increase the risk for homeowners, seniors, children, their properties, and their financial security. I've put them in bullet form so I can go through them quickly. Using a nearly 30-year-old study that uses the most up-to-date study to inform today's floodplain mapping. Using the proposed new council mapping that has suddenly reduced the size of the floodplain instead of the most up-to-date provincial mapping that came out in October. In 20 years, the floodplain increased by 193.31 hectares, 478 acres, with 541 additional homes at risk having been added, and most of those residents know nothing about this. Approving new developments against the recommendation to prohibit residential development on a floodplain, which puts current residents at increased risk. Not following the strong recommendations about stormwater best managers practices puts them at risk. Not informing and educating residents of the reality of the situation as recommended, and instead gutting and not using the original CBCL study puts them at risk. Using, as referred to in the study, a do-nothing approach because the town does not endure, and that's not my word, that's the word from the study, does not endure the costs when private homes flood. Staff stated a few meetings ago that they do not know what will happen to other homes when new development goes in on the 1 in 20 floodplain. They have never done it before. I think we all know what will happen. Potential loss of insurance, property, financial security, and perhaps even their lives. Not having an updated stormwater management plan, and there are 2,037 current approved under construction new units in Truro. How will the infrastructure handle this new development without residents' tax bills increasing? With the growing risks of flooding, new development agreements or site plan applications will submit a stormwater management plan if, and that's the word, if the town engineer wants it as a condition or for consideration. This is in an area that provincially is designated as a floodplain, with flooding risks on the floodplains and on steep slopes around Truro. This makes no rational sense, and flooding has happened as a result of development in the last little while. Developers can protect their investment. Current homeowners have no such option. They don't even know about the increased risk. Banks are taking the position they will not be approving mortgages or renovation loans for homes at risk of flooding. Devaluation. Currently, there are areas of town where water pressure is very low because of old, undersized water pipes. When will council inform residents about the results from the water distribution capacity study from last year? And what will happen when thousands of new apartments, many with families, turn on the taps? What will happen to our tax bill on this issue? Statements of provincial interest in the CBCL study state that development, contrary to the provincial statements, may be permitted provided a hydrotechnical study shows that the proposed development will not contribute to flooding or change flow patterns. This council says that this is too costly for developers, and so residents are forced again to carry the additional risk and cost. It is stated in the study that it's not morally defensible to expose the public to excess levels of risk. Where's the balance? Council protects itself by having development applicants sign a release to not hold the town or council responsible for damages in the event of a flood. But these applicants will not be making an informed decision because the complete information is being intentionally withheld. Who is protecting the current homeowners? You're going against the most recent scientific data. Why? Whose interests are being protected? Council has stated several times that the watershed is protected, but this is not accurate. There's no provincial watershed designation as stated by Council and the plan, and there is no source water protection plan. It's been proposed for the last 15 years. We are extremely vulnerable. The watershed is now zoned as parks and open spaces. Why was that change made? In my view, our drinking water is now compromised. Is anybody in council looking at the limitations of our infrastructure and at the unacceptable risks residents are unknowingly being subjected to? Does this council not see the liability issues?
5 minutes.
Finally,
Yeah.
the latest method that council appears to be using is expropriation of residents' property, and not in a reasonable nor accountable manner, I would suggest. Is the education program in place for property owners on stormwater management and flood preparedness and recovery before you go to expropriation, as in the plan, as suggested in your documents? No, it's not, nor many other of the matters I've just referred to in these bullet points. Development decisions of council are responsible for many of the flooding issues residents have been facing with increasing risk. Please use the mapping the province has provided with the CBCL study informing the maps, not an outdated study and council's changed maps. It's important to note here that most of my comments are taken from the town's own documents. I did reach out to try to get further answers, and I wasn't able to get them. I ask you to set aside any decision-making today until the issues are examined in an open, transparent, informed, collaborative manner. It's my opinion that's your duty.
Thank you very much, Ms. Smith. Thank you very much. Is there anyone further in the gallery that would like to speak today on this issue? Any further comments by council? Deputy Mayor Thomas.
Yeah, the question is, have they been notified if they've been moved from the 1 in 100 to the 1 in 20? So I'm just wondering if they've been notified of any change. So if anyone is moved from a lower risk to a higher risk designation, any property, are they notified of the change?
No, they're not notified through the change other than as a specific notification. No, they would receive notification just like anyone else would, the adoption of the new plan with the new zoning bylaws and the new,
Correct.
Which include the new floodplain levels.
So that question was asked by Ms. Smith and I. I just like comments about that, perhaps. Mr. Dolter, you could comment on that because, someone might not be aware that the risk has gone up. I mean, they should be aware, like I should know all the bylaws in my zone that I live in, but I might not, and I might be, busy and not realize that my risk has gone up, and perhaps maybe I could do something on my property to mitigate some of that risk. That's a question.
Again, I think, even from the original position, many were never informed, what flood zone they were in originally. The flood zones, again, the mapping has been on the site, contrary to what Ms. Smith indicated. The mapping and the report has been in its entirety. Right. So again, that's all been included. So again, the process for letting people know the changing in the mapping, again, that is to provide the public information. And as you indicated, we do hold public hearings, and when we did the MPS update in that, the mapping was part of that overall discussion for people to understand where they fell as far as the overall changes went. Right. It's difficult for us to, as a municipality, is to inform every household on those changes. And again, the degree that the risk had changed, I mean, again, that's difficult to assess overall. I mean, again, we'll continue to inform and carry on best practices as we do as far as the floodplain management and our stormwater management, which we are fairly comprehensive and aggressive on what we do, contrary to what was just said. So again, we are following best practices. We do take the CBCL study and other studies in consideration whenever we're making a recommendation to council and continually monitoring it. But as far as your original question, again, we ensure the mapping is accurate on the website, and people can consult that to determine where they sit in the overall.
And maybe that's the final point, that if you live in a low-lying area and that residence has been there for many years, yeah, perhaps you need to take a look at that map to see if
people should ensure they know in what zones they are, whether they are. We're unaware of any insurance being denied or mortgages being denied as a result of their location in these areas. And I'm certain that we would have heard from residents at some point, if that was the case. So again, people do need to make sure they know where they are and take, precautions as we do when developers come in to ensure that, they're not increasing the risk to anybody else and that their property as well is protected against flood risk as well. And we have them followed accepted practices that are used across municipalities across Canada.
Right. Thank you for that, Mr. Dolter.
So just for clarity, Mr. Dolter, we are using the current mapping. Mr. Fox, Mr. Dolter, we're using the.
Yeah, the version of the mapping, Jason could verify.
The version we're currently using is the CBCL study that was done. So that's the mapping, well, that's the data we're using. CBCL, yeah, the data we are using is from CBCL. That's what we use to prepare our maps.
Councillor McGrath?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Mr. Fox, regarding the CBCL data, because we do have amendments to the land use bylaws in front of us and the municipal planning strategy regarding the floodplain mapping. Now, I asked you this question, I believe, before at the public information session that was held on this topic. But can you explain, for those who may not have been at that session, what the data changes are and why they were a result? I believe it's something vectors or something. Could you?
Yeah, well, we received, how do I start this? We use point data so points on the map, and we get elevations for those. CBCL provided us with elevations to show the level that the flood event would reach, floodwaters would reach in the event of a 1 in 100 and a 1 in 20 flood. Some of those data points came back as 0 elevations, and that was causing issues with, well, first of all, if it's a 0 elevation during a flood event, there is no flood water, so those needed to be removed from the area that was included mistakenly. So that's the purpose why we've proceeded through these amendments.
Right, thank you for that. Madam Mayor, regarding the allegation that we have no provincial watershed designation in place, I know I had asked this question previously, I don't remember which meeting, but can any of senior staff or the CAO confirm once again that a provincial watershed designation is in place?
We're not a designated protected watershed, but we have a watershed protection plan, which is what the majority of the watersheds do in the province. Halifax is a designated watershed protection zone by provincial legislation. We opted not to do that in consultation with back when we had a watershed management committee. And the residents area didn't want the formal designation because they were afraid it would limit some of their activities in the watershed. So we just went with the water source protection plan.
Thank you, Mr. McKinnon. That sounds contrary to the answer that I received previously. Wouldn't it not make sense that a watershed protection designation, if that is limiting some of the activities of the residents, does that suggest that maybe they shouldn't be doing those activities in order to protect the watershed?
No, because some of them are very simple things like horseback riding, and residents in the area still want to do the horseback riding. And we thought at a limit use that was fine. So no, it's the formal provincial designation would be very limiting. We could certainly explore it again. Wouldn't bother me any if we were stricter.
In fact, it could limit some of the recreational activity that currently occurs in Victoria Park. Council has chosen over the years to, one of the things we do prohibit is motorized vehicles, anything that potentially could result in fire or potential contamination of water sources, and that's kind of the basis. In fact, through previous experience, the protected watershed can be everything from dog walking to anything that potentially could contaminate the water source. So again, we're very cautious in what we do, even on the designation that we have now. And at the end of the day, we don't really feel there's anything to be gained by going any further. But again, that would be a council decision if they feel that the water source is at risk. Our feelings and recommendation is it's currently, with its current status, it is not at risk.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dolter.
Councillor Talbot?
Yes. I'm not prepared to get into a big debate, but I have to admit that I found a number of the statements that were made were misleading. And the one I felt was most misleading was a reference to the fact that council has now turned to expropriation to manage wastewater management. That's absolutely not true. I've been on council for 9 years. Expropriation was used twice.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there any further questions from council or anyone in the gallery? Okay, no further questions. Thank you very much. Seeing no further questions, I'm going to ask 3 times. This is my second ask. Are there any further questions from anyone in the gallery or in council? My third and final ask. Any further questions today on this matter? I declare this hearing for MPS LUB amendments closed. Thank you. We are now proceed to our public agenda for today. This is a public council meeting for the town of Truro for Monday, April 7th, 2025. Mr. Dolder, are there any changes, omissions, deletions to the agenda?
No, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I would call for a motion to approve the agenda. Moved by Councillor Fleming, seconded by Councillor McGrath. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Contrary minded. Motion is carried. Thank you. Item 2 on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from March 3rd, 2025. I'd call for a motion to approve the minutes, assuming everyone's had the opportunity to review them. Calling for a motion. Okay. Deputy Mayor Talbot, Deputy Mayor Talbot. Here I go. All right. Deputy Mayor Thomas, and seconded by Councillor Talbot. Thank you very much. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the March 3rd minutes, 2025, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Item 3 is petitions and delegations. Mr. Dolter.
None today, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Item 4, request for decision, MPS LUB amendments. Mr. Dolter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, so this is a follow-up to the public hearing that was just held. So, on November 6, 2023, Council approved a new community plan for the town of Truro that included a new municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw, also referred to as the planning documents. With any documents of this scale and complexity, it is not unusual for minor errors and omissions to find their way into the final draft. Planning staff have been working with the new planning documents for the past year, and during this time, staff have identified a number of typographical cross-referencing errors, formatting errors, and issues that impact the clarity of the planning documents. The planning staff asked Council to consider the proposed amendments to the planning documents to correct the typographical errors, formatting errors, and omissions. These amendments are not substantive in nature and are intended to ensure that the town's planning documents are clear and effectively communicate the Council's land use policies and regulations. So, Madam Mayor, the proposed motion is be resolved. The Council approve the amendments to the town's municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw to correct the typographical errors, formatting errors, and omissions as outlined in the report provided by staff.
Thank you, Mr. Dolter. Council, you've heard the proposed motion. I now entertain a mover. Councillor Fleming, seconder, Councillor McGrath. Any discussion on the motion, Council? Okay, are you ready for the question? All in favor signify of approving the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you, Council. Item 4B, request for decision, Recover Initiative Market Hall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the town has been collaborating with the Recover Initiative through its building transformation program to investigate a deep retrofit for the Market Hall on Yonge Street, which houses the Truro's Farmers Market. Recover is a nonprofit supported in a large part by Natural Resources Canada, also known as NRCan, under the Deep Retrofit Accelerator Initiative. Presented to Council at the February Committee of the Whole meeting, this program will provide the town with a comprehensive assessment of the building, outlining potential efficiency upgrades and retrofits to consider. This plan will allow Council to make an informed decision on upgrades to the Market Hall building in future. And as part of the program, Recover will provide $118,900, equating to 100% of the total cost, towards the completion of a deep retrofit plan prepared by a professional consultant team. The town of Truro would only be charged a small project fee of about $1,500 plus the HST. So, Madam Mayor, the proposed motion is, be it resolved that Town Council approve the Town of Truro's inclusion in the Building Transformation Program offered by the Recover Initiative to develop a deep retrofit plan for the Market Hall building on Yonge Street.
Thank you, Mr. Dolger. I'm looking for someone to make, okay, thank you, Councillor McGrath, and a seconder, please. Seconder, Deputy Mayor. Any discussion on this motion? Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm basically going to echo my comments from Committee of the Whole that I really think this is a great initiative. It's a great way to protect our local farmers market that is cherished by many in the community and those in the surrounding areas. Even my own mother in Newfoundland still follows the market now on Facebook and Instagram because she loved the market so much when she was up here to visit. And I think we should be doing everything that we can to try to protect that historic building. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Fleming.
Thank you, Mayor Hinton. I echo and agree completely with Councillor McGrath. I'd also like to add, hopefully this will be an opportunity for us to get a washroom accessible to everybody in the downtown. We've been trying to get for quite some time, and hopefully this the new renovation of the farmers market be a good location for that washroom. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And I think we can all agree when we had the presentation at Committee of the Whole, it was very impressive. We have a motion on the floor. Oh, I see Deputy Mayor again, always with the late button. All right, there we go.
I think it's perfect timing myself. In regards to office space upstairs, is there any, does this involve some of that as well? Because there's potential use upstairs, just not the farmer's market downstairs, but there is potential in the upstairs. Right now it's a mess, but there's potential. So.
Yeah, my understanding is to look at the building in its entirety, so that would be part of the consideration, I guess, at the end of the day, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Okay, seeing no more questions, we have made the motion on the floor. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Very good. Item 4C, the second reading amended bylaw, Mr. Dolter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So staff have recommended proposed amendments to the Town of Truro's building bylaw under the Building Code Act to establish the requirements for construction site management. These amendments aim to ensure that all construction or demolition projects are managed in such a way as to ensure public safety and reduce and mitigate any negative impact on neighboring properties, public right-of-ways, and public infrastructure. The proposed amendments are outlined below and highlighted in the attached draft of the building bylaw. The requirement for an occupancy deposit has been removed. This procedure was previously implemented to ensure applicants obtain an occupancy permit. However, it is no longer necessary as most banking institutions now require copies of the permit for funding. So just to quickly go through the amendments that are outlined in the attached document. So added under 1.2.3 is our new definition. Added under 2.2.1 subpar F, permit to include construction site management plan. Under 4.1, we removed the occupancy deposit and added section under 6.1 construction site management plan, subpara 6.1.1 vehicle and pedestrian management, 6.1.2 security and safety, 6.1.3 signage, and then 6.1.4 environmental controls. The amendments to the building bylaw regarding construction site management will work in concert with the new construction site management policy. So, Madam Mayor, the proposed motion is be resolved that Council give second reading and approve the proposed amendments to the Town of Truro building bylaw as outlined in the attached documents. And again, just a reminder, those amendments are highlighted in red in the attached document.
Thank you, Mr. Dolter. Councillor, you have heard the proposed motion of the second reading for the amended building bylaw. I require a mover. Councillor McGrath and a seconder, please. Seconder? Councillor Fleming? Is there any discussion on the motion? No discussion on the motion? Okay. I will now call for a vote. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 4D, request for decision, adoption of updated regional accessibility plan. Mr. Dalter, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So as per the Nova Scotia Accessibility Plan, the Regional Accessibility Committee, in conjunction with the project consultant and the regional partners, which are the Village of Bible Hill, County of Colchester, the Town of Stewiacke, and the Village of Tatamagouche, they've completed a comprehensive review and rewrite of the 2020 Regional Accessibility Plan. The proposed plan has reviewed the regional accessibility, was reviewed by the Regional Accessibility Committee during a February 27th meeting. It's been reviewed by involved council and commissions during a regional meeting held virtually on March 10th. All involved parties agreed to adopt the updated regional plan as presented. So, Madam Mayor, proposed motion is be it resolved that council adopt and the updated regional accessibility plan as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Dalter. Council, you've heard the proposed motion. I need a mover, please. Councillor Fleming, Councillor McGrath. You're getting a lot of airtime today, councillors, on this side. Excellent. Any discussion on the motion? Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've recently been named to the Regional Accessibility Advisory Committee, so my very first meeting was the presentation of this plan. From all of the feedback from other groups representing various groups with disabilities, that it sounded like there was a lot of positive feedback. I don't really think I have anything else to add in there, just that I really think this is a great step toward equity in our town for all peoples, and making it safer for all users in the town. I did want to maybe question Mr. McKinnon. However, just I couldn't find anything about this in the plan, so this is not necessarily a dig at the plan, but just when I think about some of the accessibility issues, we talk about having push button access. For example, we should probably have some at council chambers to get that door open for when needed. But sometimes it's not so much in having that adaptability as just removing the barrier altogether. So within town, I know at most intersections, there is no need to press the button in order to get a walk signal. The walk signal comes on automatically. Is that a policy already of the town that we try to just eliminate, as they call it, the beg buttons? Or do we have is that just by coincidence or happenstance we don't happen to have those in town?
Yes, the latter. Because all of our traffic lights at one time didn't have the pedestrian actuation buttons. It was just a move probably 10, 15 years ago that we started having pedestrian actuation at some of our walk lights. I always had the preference of not having them because I didn't want pedestrians changing the timing of the lights. But where we do have them now, we'll be making a move to having the buttons mounted properly and more accessible style of a button, so you just wave your hand over them. You don't have to push the button per se. So the intersections that we do have pedestrian actuation, we'll be switching to the more accessible buttons.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Mr. McKinnon. Councillor Fleming.
Thank you, Mayor Hinton. Just going over the plan, I see on page 8, 7, and 8, there's a lot of things that are being planned for the county to projects that they're going to upgrade, like with the Stewiacke Park, the Airport Park. But I don't see any from Truro, so I'm just wondering if we have any, or are we just everything there is always, it's all Bible Hill, Airport, Bible Hill. Well, Colchester Courthouse is in town, but I don't think it's any of ours. I'm just asking if there's anything with Victoria Park that's going to be worked on or developed, or
Who's going to take that question? Mr. McKinnon or Mr. Dolder, are you aware of that?
Again, I'm not aware of where the list of projects came from. we have been looking at some of our current accessibility standards that we have for some of the things we already have built. We're already looking at some adjustments. Again, I wasn't responsible for the list here, so again, I'm not sure how they got on the list. But yes, we do have projects.
I know we do.
Rest
That's
assured.
why I'm asking.
I'm not quite sure. I mean, whether or not they're in the plan doesn't mean we're not going to do them.
No, exactly.
I'm not sure why they didn't get listed.
Yeah, I just wanted to point
be
that out.
honest.
Thank you, because I know there are plans.
Because, well, for a good example is that, I think, sorry, Parks and Rec staff installed an accessible walkway into the falls, for example, right?
Yep.
Where the new playground that's going into the, I'm gonna almost say.
Jamie Shepherd Memorial.
Well, the Jamie Shepherd Memorial into the number 2 Construction Battalion Athletic Facility grounds, that's going to be an accessible playground as well. So we've got a bunch of these coming up. Again, I'm not sure why they're not listed. We can, council just needs to approve, and we'll ensure that our programs go forward and there's good public notice on them as they're developed and ready to implement.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, we recently approved a regional public transportation study plan. And I was just wondering, when it comes to accessibility, with that plan, Mr. Dolter, can you answer that question in regards to whether or not in that study or that plan that's being developed as a regional plan for public transportation, just looking at whether or not accessibility and what's that going to look like as far as added to the system, as far as bus stops, yada, yada?
I think that's a deep consideration on any public transportation is requirements for accessibility. I think in the original plan that was done in 2011, accessibility was addressed as part of that, even that long ago. So a key piece of this, in conjunction with the work that CBCL does, is to make sure that buses have the ability to take on people with accessibility issues or are non-ambulatory. So again, that's something that is a key factor in overall public transportation, as people with accessibility issues are the ones typically do use public transit.
Right, agreed. Thank you very much.
I have a question. Downtown Truro Partnership and from our office here. So have anyone been speaking to some of the local business owners, just knowing that these plans are coming in by the province for accessibility to make easier for them? Because some of these buildings are older and it's going to be problematic, I think.
Well, in fact, we've had a recent issue over accessibility and that. So our building officials, typically when they're talking to building owners that are doing renovations and that, depending on the degree of the renovations, they may be required to bring it up to the current code, which has accessibility as one of the key factors. So, we will be looking at, businesses as we go through on changes that have to be made, particularly when renovations are involved. Again, I don't know what the requirement is for us to ensure private businesses are up to code. I don't know, Mr. Fox, if you know that or not. I don't think there's been any clear direction on that, whether or not we have an enforcement role there, unless, again, if they're making renovations, we do ensure the new code is being followed.
That's
Other than that, I can't answer that question right now.
okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Yes, this question's for Mr. McKinnon. Mr. McKinnon, I've asked you this question before, so I know the answer, but I just want to add something to it this time. It has to do with the condition of the sidewalks. And you told me last time when we assess the streets and we determine whether or not where those repairs need to be done and whether or not we'll do a repair of a particular street. Is it bad enough to be repaired? And so I asked you that about sidewalks and wanting a list of repairs, or at least when repairs should be done on that. And your answer to me was that assessment is done by sidewalk snowplow operators. I think that's what you said to me. And I just like to mention that there's several sidewalks around the town when it comes to accessibility are not great. And some of them are broken down, et cetera. They've been that way for at least 2 or 3 years now. I can think of one around the corner from my house that continues to be uneven, broken up, et cetera, and it hasn't been repaired. So can you just speak to that, how that's been addressed as far as determining when a particular sidewalk, which is damaged for some reason or another, maybe it's frost heaving, maybe it's heavy traffic flowing over it for some reason, it's a driveway entrance or something, how that's being dealt with, because it is an accessibility issue.
Sure. So our office staff will be rating all the conditions of all the sidewalks in town. The sidewalk plow operators, they had gone through, they go through the sidewalks every fall, but it's mainly for branches and twigs in the way of snowplow operating and any kind of real major defects that might hinder their snowplow operations. So the smaller ones that are going to hinder other uses on the sidewalks, our staff will be rating those, but if there's anything that's in really bad shape, we do rely on people to call in and let us know when one's in really bad shape until we do our annual inspections.
Right. One particular one I'm thinking about is in a commercial area, so I don't know if someone would call it in or not, but it should be called in. Perhaps I'll call it in.
Yes, thank you.
In regards to, I just hope that, I don't see it in the budget. Like when I was looking for a budget line for sidewalk repair, I guess that's included in just general maintenance repairs, et cetera.
Yes, our sidewalk maintenance budget.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy. Councillor Talbot.
Yes, I'd just like to build a little bit on Councillor Thomas' comment, because it's not only the sidewalks that are in bad conditions, and yes, we do have a number of them, but it's also a lot of where you go down that curb to get into the walkway that doesn't meet code, and that has to be looked at as well.
Those are our accessibility ramps at every intersection where a sidewalk approaches a crosswalk, and that's what we do. We try to make those meet modern code. The old ones that were built, and a lot of our sidewalks are still sidewalks that were built in the 50s and 60s and 70s, and they're very narrow and steep. So whenever we work on the street, we upgrade those.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Director McKinnon. Is there any further? Oh, Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just for the record, Mr. McKinnon, if people do have issues with their sidewalks, you say you encourage people to call them in. What is the official method for reporting those broken sidewalks for someone to look at?
Email to publicworks@truro.ca or just call in our phone number at the office, 895-4243.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, the request for decision for adoption of the updated regional accessibility plan. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to number 5, item 5 on our agenda is an in-camera summary report. Mr. Dolter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So on the 3rd of March, Council met. We discussed 3 issues at that meeting, 2 of a legal nature, 1 involving a land issue. On April 1st, we again met, and there was an issue of a legal nature that were discussed. There are no items today, Madam Mayor, to be discussed in camera.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dolter. Now we're going to be moving on to our department reports. After each report, Council may ask questions. I would ask for a motion at the end so we can approve the reports and the questions to be brought forward at that time. Our first up is our CAO, Mr. Dolter.
So thank you, Madam Mayor. So as Council is aware, much of March was consumed by the finalization of the 25-26 budget. The budget will be presented for Council's approval later on the agenda. For many municipalities in Nova Scotia and Canada, like many of those, Truro faces challenges managing increased operational costs while trying to avoid significant increases to burden our town residents. Staff and Council discussed at length how the cost of regional services such as recreation continue to be assumed by our taxpayers while the communities around the town benefit from our significant investments. Once again, this budget, we're assuming major costs to renew and renovate facilities that will benefit the wider community for decades to come. So again, that is a major commitment the town is making. But Madam Mayor, staff are proud of the level of service we do provide, and this budget will allow us to continue to maintain those levels while taking on some additional requirements. So I'd like to thank council and senior staff for the frank discussions that we had and the commitment to making the community a great place to live. And again, we're proud of the budget we put together, and lots to do over the year. Next item is the International Associated Firefighters negotiations. Since the recent resumption of negotiations, the town and the IAFF Local 627 have agreed to move to conciliation, as we have reached an impasse. So both sides will meet with the appointed conciliator on May 21st, 2025. Colchester Legion Stadium. So as the end of the ice season approaches at the stadium, town staff continue to work with the contractors for the ice plan on finalizing the commissioning and the related work. The plan has been working well with only a few minor issues. The updated plant has some significant improvements over the previous dated system, which should improve ice conditions and the overall efficiency in our operations. I think as late as last week, they're updating the automated controls for the new ice plant, and so those should be completed soon, and there is some follow-on work. Number 2, Construction Battalion Athletic Facility. We met recently with the contractor for the athletic facility and have come to an agreement on the final completion date, which will be the 1st of July 2025. This should provide sufficient time for staff to prepare the area for the official opening and monument commemoration, which is now scheduled for the 1st of August. We will coordinate with the contractor to allow the work of the installation of the number 2 Construction Battalion monument and site preparations to occur. The pouring of the track surface will be scheduled as soon as weather conditions permit, and we hope that starts soon. Deer Management Program. The Mayor has sent a letter to the Minister of Natural Resources and Renewals regarding changes to the hunting regulations that will allow the town's managed hunt to be conducted in the urban area of the town. This is an important step in being able to deal with the herds that have taken up permanent occupancy in the core urban area, and in doing so are in continual conflict with residents. Any changes to activities would be done in conjunction with the local Department of Natural Resources and Renewable staff to ensure public safety and the humane treatment of the deer population. So, as far as strategic initiatives and communications goes, just a few items to cover. The equity and anti-racism strategy. So under the Nova Scotia Dismantling Racism and Hate Act, municipalities and villages throughout Nova Scotia are required to develop a equity and anti-racism strategy. The partners at the County of Colchester, Village of Bible Hill, and the town of Stewiacke have agreed to adopt a regional approach to developing this strategy, and our consultant, Wake the Unconscious, has been contracted to assist in facilitating the strategy. Stakeholder and public engagement occurred from the March 31st to April 4th, and we hope that the final report will be available and delivered in May. The initiative was promoted on the town's social media website, and a press release was issued in late March to announce this project and the engagement process. Sorry. The town and county are developing a regional public transportation feasibility plan. Arcadis has been engaged to facilitate this initiative. A stakeholder engagement workshop took place on March 25th with over 35 attendees from local organizations. Public engagement commenced on the 1st of April, starting with the first of 2 public surveys. Members of the public can complete the first survey until April 22nd, and it is available on the town's social media and our website. The initiative has been promoted also on our social media and website, and a press release was issued that announced this program and the engagement process in mid-March. The Regional Tourism Strategic Plan implementation. So following the Council's approval of the Regional Strategic Tourism Plan for the Truro Colchester region in March, staff have been working to develop a short-term implementation plan which will be reviewed by the Executive Committee Exec committee comprises one councillor from each of the four partners, Truro, Colchester, Stewiacke, and Millbrook. A draft of the management agreement for the society is expected to be delivered to the four councils in late April, early May. So, Madam Mayor, we've also been working on a number of video projects. Yourself and Mayor Blair had a video done for International Women's Day to recognize the contribution of women in the Truro-Colchester region. And also staff continue with your monthly videos, I think, which are being well received by the public. Local food infrastructure funding. So staff collaborated with the communications personnel at Agriculture and Agri-Foods Canada to host a funding announcement for the local food infrastructure fund on March 6th. For Truro, this announcement was $33,000 to enhance the Stan Cook Maxwell Community Garden, which includes the installation of a greenhouse donated by Dalhousie University. And staff are involved as well for the Truro 150 with the Colchester Historium to create a series on throwback posts that we highlight on the website that takes you through Truro through the years, which is great for people like myself who haven't been in Truro all their lives, and it is a good way to remember what the town was and where we're going. So again, there is also a list of a number of media projects there for council's review. And again, the monthly update on where we are with funding program applications and the status of those programs for council's consideration. So, Madam Mayor, that is my report, respectfully submitted.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dolter. Very informative. As we mentioned, you mentioned about media. I'm all about open communication, and I want to thank you for supporting me on that, and also our staff member, Michaela Carroll, who always does my videos with me. I've now called her Michaela Spielberg. She's become quite the director. So thank you very much. And I also want to thank you, Mr. Dolter. On last Monday, I spoke at Rotary, and for your help and assistance with the PowerPoint presentation. I think it went quite well, and I was really pleased to meet all the Rotarians and all the good work they do in our community. Councillor, I have a few people on the queue here that want to comment on Mr. Dolter's report, and the first up is Councillor Fleming.
Thank you, Mayor Hinton. I also like to comment. I've heard some good people come up to me about your message, monthly message, and they say they're really good. And I enjoy watching them myself.
Thank you very much.
Doing a great job with that. Through you to Mr. Dolter, IAFF, for my mom's at home watching. She's probably wondering what IAFF is, so that everyone knows who's negotiating with the town for what reason.
Yeah, it's the International Association of Firefighters.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Dolter, I'm looking for an update on our library pigeon situation. We haven't heard much on that in the last few months, and I know getting into the spring, this is probably getting to be a critical time to start looking at that. Have we come to some sort of agreement or plan on how to deal with the pigeons at the library without impacting the chimney sweep?
I will have to seek an update on that, but I can only assume, because I haven't received one, that we're still waiting for word from the province, as we were waiting for DNR to agree and, I was going to say, bless the program. So again, that I will get an update for council on that matter.
Okay, thank you very much. And then last month we had talked about setting up a special committee to look at some bylaw amendments regarding lawn renaturalization and encouraging biodiversity and native wildlife, or wild plants, sorry. You had said we would get a staff report. I don't see that on today's agenda. Do we have a timeline for when that might be received?
We're still involved in doing some research on that. Again, we'll try to put something together. Again, budget consumed a lot of our time over the last month. So I'm looking at my watch. I don't know why, because I can tell it should be a calendar instead. Probably looking at, I will give you an update during April. We'll look at, see if we can get something together for May.
Okay, thank you very much. And then that was all I think I had for you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks, Councillor. And Mr. Dolter and I just discussed that the other day, but as we can all appreciate with budgets, it's been a very, very busy month. We have Deputy Mayor Thomas.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I want to thank you first of all for sending a letter to the Minister of Natural Resources and Renewals regarding, the deer problem in the town and helping us come up with a solution. They're responsible for the control of wild animals, and so this is something that needs to happen. I have a letter here that I received, and I just want to read just a couple of lines from it. This is to do with the deer problem in the town. This person says, I regularly see 5 to 8 deer grazing at any given time in their backyard. Consequently, I can no longer enjoy my backyard due to the excessive fecal matter and the constant presence of these animals. I feel as though my property has been invaded. And this is the one that concerned me a little bit. Furthermore, the rising tick population is a significant health concern. My grandson, who lives in a rural area, contracted a tick while visiting my home in Truro. This tick was identified as a species known to carry Lyme disease, highlighting the increased risk of exposure to tick-borne illness within our town. While he thankfully did not contract Lyme disease, this incident underscores the potential danger posed by the growing tick population, likely exacerbated by the increased deer presence. And I think that's an issue, and we've talked about this a lot. It is an issue. It's the first time I've heard somebody, and I know there's been others, it's not the first time actually, knocking door to door, canvassing in the fall. There's a couple of people that said to me that they contracted ticks, but they weren't sure whether it was in town or not. This is the first time that someone has said that they've actually contracted a tick, not the disease, just the tick in town. And that's a concern, and so, people should be aware of that if these ticks are on the deer, they will be in the grass, particularly the taller grass species. So maybe controlling those taller grasses around the border of your property or whatever. I don't know. I'm not going to get into that. We'll leave that to the experts. But I will say this, is that this concerns me. So I'm happy a letter's gone forward. But I'd like to see us do a follow-up contact with the provincial government as well. Give them a phone call. A letter can just be dropped, to the side and say, okay, well, yeah. But I think we need to put additional pressure on the department to help us with this effort to control deer. Thank you.
Yeah, in that regard as well, Deputy Mayor, we did send an info copy letter to Minister Ritchie as well, too, as the MLA for the area. So again, and we've talked to him about supporting us in getting some changes made. So and he said that he will do with what's in his power to assist us.
Okay. Well, let's keep the pressure up. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy, and we will definitely keep following up on this one. And I also want to thank the resident that took the time to write that letter. It's very important, and we need to hear it. Moving on, Councillor Pryor.
Mr. Dolter, what is referred to as the urban area?
I would call that the I'll use another one, downtown core. So essentially, what we're talking is everything that it's a fairly wide area, but involving Pleasant Yonge Street, certainly the downtown area itself, and even going into Burnett Lyman as well too. Anything that's bordered by heavy forest, and certainly we know that some of the heaviest deer populations are in the Yonge Street, Pleasant Street callback area.
Lori.
What's that?
Lori.
Yeah, well, again, in Ward 3 in that area too as well. So when we're talking urban, it's basically the built-up residential areas, because right now where we're doing our hunting is actually on the outskirts in the woods, essentially, right? So we want to go where we can safely do so. We want to get into the more residential area and ensure that we can do it safely and without disturbing the public, which is the challenge, but clearly that's what has to happen for the population in those areas in the downtown to start decreasing.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Pryor, I think you can attest when you can see the deer on the streets crossing up the crosswalks and staying in the lines, they become climatized. And that's where we're at this point.
It's just not to make light of the situation, Madam Mayor, but I listened to a story yesterday on CBC Radio about Surrey, BC, and they've got a neighborhood is inundated with peacocks. And if you know peacocks, if you've gone to Shubenacadie to the wildlife park, it's not a pleasant experience. And they've got a couple hundred peacocks in this area. So we would just be happy the deer are quiet. So again, this is again, not to make light of it, but every municipality is facing similar challenges to this. You know, again, when you get residential development in areas that were more natural at one point, right? So again, it's just one of the things we have to deal with.
Thank you. Our next report is our corporate services report, which we'll hear more from later with our director, Ms. Russell. But would you like to give your report now, please?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor. The statements provided give an overview of the financial position of the town of Truro operations to the end of February 2025. Total revenue to the end of February was $37.8 million, or 99.3% of the annual budget. Property taxes are fully billed and came in at 99.8% of the budget. Deed transfer tax is above budget at 178%. Taxes, grant in lieu, have been received and came in slightly higher than budget. Revenue services to other municipalities continue to flow based on billings. Revenue from services offered is strong despite the stadium opening later than expected in budget. Public Works is at 184% due to the sewer lateral revenue not being budgeted. Other revenue, interest earned is higher than budget due to higher interest rates than expected for a result of 234% of budget. Miscellaneous is also outperforming budget by 202%. Government transfers are consistent with the quarterly billing cycle except for the other account, which at 401% reflects additional unbudgeted grants that were applied for and received this year. Total expenses to date at the end of February is $31.7 million, or 83.9% of the annual budget, which is lower than where we'd expect to be at this point in the year. The following details provide some of the bigger variances to budget. Under legislative, other expense account is over budget at 121%, primarily because of the retirement expenses for Mayor Mills' send-off. General administration, other expenses continue to be slightly higher than budget at 117% due to an increase in insurance premiums, unbudgeted safety requirements, and other professional fees. Regional events reflects the commitment to the REC for the Nova Scotia Stampede. Fire services, total expense is at 95% due to the payment of the water utility charge. All other accounts are in line. Transportation and environment, streets and sidewalks is at 117%, reflecting expenditures during the construction season, the annual gravel requirements, and the increased cost of traffic control. Overall, transportation and environment is on budget. Planning and development, other expenses are at 111% due to increased software subscription costs. Overall, planning and development is on budget. Parks, Recreation, and Culture, the Rath Eastlink Community Center is slightly above budget at 102%, which includes full funding for the year as well as emergency lighting expense. Provincial government transfer to the school board is currently at 98.9% and is expected to be over budget by year end due to the budget estimate being too low. Overall, we continue to operate well within budget. For procurement this month, there was one tender awarded in February. $36,724 was awarded to Cartel Communications for the data voice recorders required for Truro Police. And our IT staff will be hosting municipal IT and municipal police IT meetings on April 9th in conjunction with the Atlantic Security Conference in Halifax on April 10th and 11th. Respectfully submitted.
Thank you very much for your report. Any questions today for Director Russell? Well, they're saving it all for the big news of the budget later. Thank you very much. We're going to move on now to our fire service report with Chief Blois Curry. Chief.
Got to put my glasses on so I can see. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Council. Last month we received 78 alarms. We had 1 structure fire, 2 car fires, 4 grass and brush fires, 3 motor vehicle collisions, 48 medical calls, 16 alarms, 1 telephone pole fire, 2 burning complaints, and 1 elevator entrapment. The fire inspector did 12 inspections, 6 follow-up inspections, 1 alcohol and gaming inspection, 1 vendor permit, 1 order to take action. 3 orders were closed last month, and he did 2 fire investigations. We've been holding meetings last month with Ken Cox, Fire Prevention Officer from Natural Resources, to review the Wildfire Smart program and having talks about Victoria Park. This work continues with myself and some of the other stakeholders. Firefighter training for last month was strategic and excuse me, strategies for conducting and primary searches in smoke-filled buildings, inspection of personal protective equipment, and review and inspection of off-land firefighting equipment. Respectfully submitted.
Thank you very much, Chief. Questions from Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Chief, for that report. And I think you actually answered my question, because when I first saw this report, all I saw was fire one, then car fire, and I was like, why does fire sit by itself? But when you presented, you said structure fire. But I am curious, we've got structure fire, car fire, grass or brush fire, wire or pole fire. How many different types of fire do we have? And can you, in 30 seconds or less, highlight the importance of why those are separated? Because I would assume we also have car fires. That's probably an issue because there's a flammable liquid or explosive batteries in the vehicle. Can you talk just a little bit about that?
Most of those are categorized so that I can go back and look in the past year on how many calls we had around car fires and structure fires and pole fires and that stuff. There's several different types of fires. We can get right down into garbage cans and all of that stuff. Most of it is for your information. I'm just highlighting the major calls that we have. Major types of calls that we have, I apologize. So most of that's just for our own records. So at the end of the year, we can actually see how many car fires or structure fires we had. Not sure if that answers your total question, but
I think it'll do. Thank you.
okay.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Deputy Mayor.
Yes, Chief, thank you for your report. I need a drink here. That didn't help at all. Here we go again. Okay, here we am. It's coming back again. Okay, grass fires. The grass fire situation. This time of year, it's been a tradition of Nova Scotia landowners to kind of burn off last year's tall grass, dead grass, etc. I hope this is not what this is representing. Is it? And if it is, how do we discourage that? Because that's how you have pole fires too, and a lot of other fires too. So could you just speak to that, what that grass and brush fire was, and is that just something that happens this time of year that needs to be greatly discouraged?
Yes, every year we get into drier times, and as everything's drying, a lot of it comes from mulch fires around different areas, and I will say cigarette butts and stuff being thrown out into the dry material. Burning your own grass now is a no-no.
Right.
And everybody needs to understand that any illegal burning we do could be subject to a $25,000 fine, which has been done across the province in several different areas last year. So most of them are just the ongoing things that we get every year: carelessness,
Right.
Dry materials,
Okay.
that kind of stuff.
Okay, because I was just worried that this, it was a traditional practice of many landowners in Nova Scotia 25, 40 years ago or whatever to burn the dry grass off from last year, and that's a dangerous practice. So thank you for that.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, just to raise the issue, because I was going to, the Deputy Mayor kind of did it. We're going to start, going to get some social media done on, burn restrictions and that. If people aren't checking the provincial site, which they should whenever they consider burning something, I think given the limited amount of snow we had and limited rain for that matter over the winter, it is going to be a very dry summer unless things change dramatically. So, our concern for Victoria Park is all the more heightened because of that. And we ask residents to, think twice, certainly throwing away a cigarette or anything like that when going through. And you're not supposed to be smoking in the park anyways, but if you are, deal with it responsibly. But I think it's very important to remind residents that, being vigilant as far as their fire safe practices and that is critical at this point. And again, as we get more details on the fire safe program, I know the chief's working on that. We're going to, we start educating residents on how they can improve the safety of their properties as well too, because again, I think it's important and certainly an issue we're taking seriously, and in fact reflected in the budget. Some of the things we're looking as far as changes for wildfire and getting ready for that potential.
Absolutely, and thank you for bringing that up. Planning and Development, Mr. Fox, your report, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So for planning applications, or sorry, I should say this is the planning and development report for the month of March 2025. First item there is planning applications. We have currently 8 applications on the books, one at 656 Young Street, one at 60 Golf, one at 730 Young Street, one at 373 Roby Street, one at 201 Callback Street, one at 67 Inglis Place, one at 37 Braemar Court, and one at Rexdale Ford and Marshland. Also, not listed there are 2 municipal planning strategy amendments that I should mention, bring to your attention. One is for the West Prince amendments, public information meeting, which will be held on, Wednesday, April 16th from 2 to 3 p.m. And again, there's a second meeting also on Wednesday, April 16th between 6 and 7 p.m. held in these chambers. So that, again, that's the public information meeting for the West Prince Street amendments. So that's a municipal planning strategy amendment, and the second amendment is a wind energy amendments, which are a ministerial order. The province has asked us to amend our plan to make some changes to our regulations around wind turbines. In terms of site plan approval applications, we have one at 161 McLean Street. Building statistics for the month of March 2024, we are at $16,559,403. For the month of March 2025, we are currently at $4,366,410. Pardon me. Should also note the kind of exciting news that we did receive the permit application for the first part of the Stanfields development. So that's not in these statistics, won't be in until the permit's issued, but that's a rather large number. I think we'll all be excited about when we see it. The next item there is the active bylaw violations by property. We currently have, for bylaw enforcement, we currently have 44 active files, we did in March, 44 active files, and 18 of those have been resolved. Respectfully submitted.
Thank you. Can you give me that date again for the West Prince Street?
Update for the...
Yeah.
Like when the meeting's going to
Yes.
be? Yeah, so the meeting's going to be, there's 2 meetings, both the same day, Wednesday, April 16th, one at 2 to 3 p.m. and one at 6 to 7 p.m. held here in the council chambers. So that's a public information meeting to review the proposed amendments to the planning documents to set up the West Prince Advisory Committee and also look at rezoning some lands on West Prince and Juniper and Clyke from the regional service to the urban corridor zone.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Fox? You almost got away with it, Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Emulating the Deputy Mayor with the late button push. Thank you for your report, Mr. Fox. I had a couple of questions for you. The site plan approval, we've discussed before whether or not site plan approvals can be added to the website alongside the development agreements. Have we made any progress in figuring out if we can do that, and if so, how?
I keep forgetting to deal with this issue. My apologies, Councillor. I will make a point of doing that for next month's meeting. Sorry.
Great, thank you. And I note that there's no update on our affordable housing framework. Where are we at with that file?
A while back, we had reached out to the County of Colchester with a proposed framework to introduce requirements to require a percentage of units be affordable in units, and there was a whole framework attached to that, which revolved around securing funding. I won't get into all the details, but essentially the key part of that is that if we go it alone, we will just simply drive most of the development out to the county. So that's not really where we want to be. So we wanted to reach out to the county to include them in any proposed regulations to make sure that we're approaching this in a consistent way, so that all development in the region is subject to the same requirements and we're not pushing development into one area. So we are still waiting to hear back from the county on our proposed amendments that we met with them back in November, I believe.
Okay, what can we do to push that forward? Because this was first raised in November of 2023. I believe the affordable housing framework was promised to be delivered about this time last year. With the number of development agreements that were coming in, your department was understandably busy, but we're now even a year beyond that, and we're still waiting on the county. How can we move this forward? Is there something the council can do to help you move this forward?
Perhaps that would be, something that you could do. I haven't had much luck at a staff level, so perhaps if you wish to have council reach out to County Colchester Council, that sounds like an excellent idea.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Madam Mayor, is that something that we can add into either I don't know if we can bring that up in questions by members, but we could raise a motion there to have council reach out to the county to see if we can get some movement on this file.
My thoughts is if we reach out to the county, maybe we could have a joint letter sent to the province, because we definitely need to have the tax dollars come from the province. It's fundamental right that everybody has a place to live. And as we all know, what's affordable for one person is not affordable for everybody. So, Mr. Dolter, can we look at that? Having maybe, when we have our next meeting, which will probably soon with our CAO from the county and mayor from the county, that we could bring this up and maybe comprise a joint letter to be sent off to the province with the urgent need that we need to move forward on this.
Yeah, we can do that as well, and I think we should as well to Councilor McGrath's point, I guess, just ask, we should probably ask the county as well, just for an update on where they are with the framework itself.
Yeah.
Because again, that would be, probably be considered separately from asking the province for some sort of financial support on the other end.
Strength in numbers. Okay, no further questions?
I have one more,
Oh,
if
you
you
have
don't
one
mind,
more?
Madam Mayor. Just, Mr. Fox, again, you mentioned some provincial changes to the wind turbine regulations. Are you able to expand more on that, or is there somewhere that we can go to get more information on that?
I will have a report for the Planning Advisory Committee that will be coming up. You'll be able to get more information then, but in essence, I believe the biggest change that's being proposed or being requested that all municipalities make is that to reduce the required setback from a wind turbine to 3 times the total turbine height. So that would be the total height of the turbine to the tip of the blade, not to the nacelle, but to the tip of the blade. So the nearest dwelling would be 3 times the height of the turbine away, as opposed to our current requirement, which is 8 times the height.
So it'd be reducing it from 8 times the height to 3 times the height?
That's correct. We're being essentially ordered to do so by the province.
Interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Mr. Fox. Truro Police Service Report presented by Chief Dave McNeil. Chief?
Thanks, Your Worship. The report's for March 2025. We received 31 traffic collisions for the month, issued 270 summary offense tickets, conducted 31 road safety check stops, had 16 bylaw noise type complaints, 9 impaired driving investigations, 3 drug investigations, 168 other provincial statutes like Liquor Control and Trespass Act, 75 mental health and wellness complaints, 28 violation of court order files, 7 crimes against persons, 8 assaults, 30 thefts. There were 16 property damage or disturbance calls, 3 fraud and forgery investigations, 105 suspicious person or vehicle calls, 23 alarms, and 140 other calls for general assistance, for a total of 963 calls for the month. 253 resulted in charges. There was 54 parking tickets issued and 57 speeding offenses issued. Respectfully submitted.
Thank you very much, Chief. Any questions for the Chief? You got off easier than Mr. Fox did. Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to Public Works. Director McKinnon, your report, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, attached is the Public Works monthly report for March of 2025. Engineering summary: during the month of March, the Public Works staff continue working on asset management projects and prepared drafts of the department's operating and capital budgets for the 25-26 budget process. Staff continue with project oversight services of the TAC Grounds redevelopment and Argus Drive ball field projects. Started oversight services of the rail yard pump track project and are now providing oversight services for the stadium rebuild project. As a lead up to the extended producer responsibilities, or EPR system that has now been enacted, textiles have been dropped from our list of fiber recycles stream of our 4-stream curbside collection program back on March 31st. Communications have begun, and staff will prepare a full briefing note for Town Council for the full impacts of the EPR system for the April Council Committee of the Whole meeting. Public Works summary: transportation crews have been busy with street patching and snow and ice control. They also continue with sign maintenance, downtown maintenance, street sweeping, and safety training. The local asphalt plant, Wilcare, just opened this week, so we can finally get some real patching done. Environmental services crews continue with water and sewer maintenance activities, which included hydrant maintenance, catch basin, manhole maintenance, and pump maintenance. Crews renewed 1 sewer lateral and continued to work on safety training. Respectfully submitted.
Thank you very much. Any questions, Council, for Director McKinnon? Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr. McKinnon, for your report. I have a question about the extended producer responsibilities. I did see the note from Waste Management that we're no longer accepting textiles. What now? Is there a plan in place? What are we supposed to do with those textiles?
The textiles will have to go back, when the county was responsible for the recycling, they only had started the textiles, 3 or 4 years ago. So we'll have to go back to what we used to do and give them to one of the nonprofits, and even if they can't use them as good clothing, they can cut them up and use them as rags and sell them.
Okay, and then do we expect further changes with extended producer responsibility, more changes down the road on what will and will not be accepted in the trash and recycling?
There is potential for that, and we'll discuss it more at the committee of the whole when I make the presentation on that, because there's timelines come into effect on when they're fully responsible.
Okay. I was wondering if I could get an update. I had brought forth a suggestion beforehand where we have curbside collection for any units, residential units, up to 3 residential units, but a lot of the urban corridor and other zoning areas allow up to 4 units. And I think it makes a lot more sense if we align on that. And that was something you were going to take away and look into. Do we have an update on that?
We haven't looked into it for all 4 streams, but coincidentally, for the 2 recycle streams, once the EPR collector takes over the collection of the recycles, they will be paying our contractor to collect recycles from all residential units in town, regardless of the number of units. So even the large apartment buildings will be able to get recycle collection.
Excellent. That's some good news. But how does that, what would the impact then be for garbage? Because I think, when I look at Mr. Fox's bylaw report, there are a lot of bylaw reports on garbage, overflowing dumpsters, garbage, too much garbage put out front that's not going to be collected. And I think that if we were to take some of that responsibility off the 4-unit buildings instead of having them have their own private collection, I think it would help reduce a lot of the bylaw complaints if we had the town collecting for those 4 units, which there seem to be a large number of in town.
So if we're just talking, I guess, whatever council wish, I can get a price from our contractor. If we're going to collect from 4 units or for all of the units, I would have to get an estimate from our contractor to do that collection, and each building would probably have a different process. I don't know if we'd be able to provide that many compost containers, for instance, but yeah, I have to request our contractor to give us a quote on that.
Okay, thank you. I'll leave it to council to decide whether or not that's necessary. I have one other question. It's nothing to do with your report, but it is, I think, somewhat your realm. I think everybody's aware that the spring in Lower Truro is closing, or I think has closed now. And I've heard from some folks who were concerned about that. Obviously, that's not our responsibility, but I wondered if you could talk a little bit, if you're prepared, on how we treat our water, whether we're using chlorine, whether we're using chloramine, whether or not, because I had an environmental scientist friend of mine once tell me that if your water is heavily chlorinated, you can pour it into a pitcher, leave it out to sit, the chlorine will evaporate, and then the water tastes better. Are you able to expand on that a little?
Yes, our water treatment plant is built on chlorination process, and chlorination is known worldwide as the most effective way of disinfecting drinking water. Also, it gives you ability to trace your disinfection throughout the system, because you can measure chlorine residuals left in the water to ensure that your water is safe to drink. Chloramation is used in a few cities, few larger cities that have a very large distribution network, and some of the cities in warmer climates, because it's a process of adding ammonia to the chlorine to make the chlorine last longer throughout the system. So it's needed in some of the warmer climates and some of the bigger cities. We don't need it, and ammonia would be, I would assume it'd be a dangerous process to add to our system, as well as costly. And also, it has a side effect that it affects dialysis units, so it's something that I don't think we'd want to look into unless we really had to.
So we'll stick with the chlorine, and I'll stick to drinking the town water.
And you are absolutely correct, that if you just let the water sit for a while, the chlorine will dissipate off and you don't taste it.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you very much. I think before you moved here, we did win an award for our water. So, just to say that, so we should be proud of that. Oh, there, you're drinking it already. Well, there you go, a testament to how good it is. Now we're going to move on to Deputy Mayor Thomas.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. This is just a point of clarity. Can someone maybe talk about the rail yard pump track project? Because I don't know if everybody knows what that means out there. I know what it means, but one of the Director of Parks and Rec, Ms. Sims, would like to talk about that, or somebody just want to describe that project, where it is and what it is, because I don't think everybody knows what that is.
Yeah. The pump track is an asphalt pump track used for competition and even more so used for practice, just based on being able to do the proper movements and the fundamental movements in mountain biking to be able to get through the Rail Yard Mountain Bike Park. We have awarded the project to Bellevaux, or also known as the Canadian Ramp Company. They have built a track in Cape Breton and I believe in St. John's, New Brunswick as well too. So we are very excited for this project to take place. It's the end of what we have anticipated through the mountain bike rail yard master plan that we had completed almost, I guess, over 5 years ago. So this is the end of that master plan with the initiatives that we had placed. So that will start in August.
Right, so if I understand right, it's sort of a practice circuit in which you have hills and valleys, quick hills and valleys. You go up and down, and you use your body and your brakes and et cetera, and just improve your skills. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy. Counselor Pryor.
Mr. McKinnon, I get a lot of questions about why we don't fill the potholes on the end of Wade Road and the ramp coming off of the highway to the lights at the wreck. Can you explain that, please?
Sure, I'd gladly explain that one. Both areas are outside of our jurisdiction for maintenance. One is, it's in town. The one by the wreck at the lights by Walmart is actually in town, but because of the proximity of the ramps from the 102, highways do the maintenance right to the lights. And at the other end of Wade Road, down Lower Truro Road, is actually in the county, and the roads are owned by the province, so it's their responsibility there as well.
Thank you. And one more thing, will you be fixing the parking lot beside the police station, the potholes?
Yes, we'll be doing extensive patching program in that parking lot because there's some really bad spots there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Counselor Talbot. Oh, all right.
Yes, my question for Mr. McKinnon as well. During the budget deliberations, we approved some monies to extend the sidewalk on Willow Street. It wasn't clear to me which direction, but I just wanted to say that it would make more sense to me if we came in so that we had a continuous piece of the area that has a sidewalk. It would make more sense than going the other direction, having sidewalk, no sidewalk, and sidewalk. So just looking for your comment, Andrew.
Yep. No, you're absolutely correct. That would be a better gap to fill. Unfortunately, last year we put out a tender to do sidewalk work on Willow, and we didn't want to work close to the roundabout. So we picked Glenwood Drive going south towards Millbrook. And that tender, they only had opportunity to complete half of the work. So we're committed to finish the other half of their work this season. If we have the funds that would be great for us to be able to do that gap from Glenwood back towards the roundabout.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Director McKinnon. Our final department report. Oh, here he comes again with the late button. I think I'm going to start a jar with a little fine for him. Okay, there we go.
No,
Yeah.
the reason my question's a little late, it had to do with Mr. McKinnon's answer, and I pushed the button immediately. Mr. McKinnon, that contract, you mean that contract can't be rewritten so the second half of that project can be modified so you do go from the roundabout to Glenwood? Is that possible in some way? Because that, Mr. Talbot is absolutely correct. That makes far more sense. And I'm just wondering, can we change that contract to meet that need?
We could look at that. I don't know if I would recommend it because the other job is already half started, but we can have a look at it. And it may take some surveying work that we haven't got done, whereas the other one is already surveyed too. So it might delay things too longer. The best course would probably be to continue with this and earmark the Glenwood back to the roundabout for as soon as we can afterwards. Move to it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McKinnon.
Thank you, Deputy. I'm still going to look at the late button jar, though. Anyway, our final committee report is Parks, Recreation and Culture, presented by Director Sims. Take it away.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. General cleanup and maintenance efforts continue throughout downtown parks and trails. Outdoor winter activities officially wrapped up for the season. The Caldwell Roach Heartland Ice Surface had another successful year, officially closed on Saturday, March 15th. Colchester Legion Stadium had another busy month with 328 hours of ice time booked. The stadium will close for the season on April 21st. As we transition to spring operations, seasonal staff recall letters have been issued and staff will return to work on April 22nd. The 2025 tree planting program is currently underway with 115 potential sites identified for tree planting. HWA treatment training is scheduled for April and May, with implementation planned for late spring and summer. In collaboration with CFIA and Atlantic Canada HWA, an open house presentation will be held prior to the commencement of treatment. In partnership with the Funday Female Leadership Network, a night hike was held on March 4th to celebrate International Women's Day. This event was a great success, engaging female leaders from Truro and the broader Funday region. Spring Sport Ball is currently in progress, and registration for summer programs will open in mid-April. Community drop-in programs continue to be offered, and a full list of our activities are available on the town's website. The Town of Truro Art Acquisition Show will take place from April 3rd to April 25th at the McCarthy Hall Gallery on the NSCC Truro campus. Application submissions closed on March 28th. Then the annual Easter egg hunt, organized in partnership with neighboring recreation departments, will be held on April 18th, with the Town of Truro's event taking place in Victoria Park. Residents can pick up tickets for the event from their respective recreation departments. And nominations for the Town of Truro Volunteer Awards are now open. The deadline to be considered for the Provincial Volunteer Awards is May 4th, while nominations for all other categories must be submitted by May 16th. Throughout March, the Town of Truro recognized and celebrated several important community dates, including Pink Shirt Day, End of Ramadan, International Women's Day, and Holi. Respectfully submitted.
Thank you very much. A question, at the Jamie Shepherd Memorial Park, when it opens, would there be a swing there that is for children with disabilities?
We're still in the design. We are hopeful that will be the case. We just have to look at fall zones and the space before we commit to anything.
I really hope so. I had a mom approach me the other day, and it's important. One other thing, I've had inquiries to see if a railing could be put at the accessible part of the pool for safety reasons for individuals with mobility issues and seniors. And with the pool deck being slippery, possibility of a railing going in that part of the pool. Could you maybe look into that and just get back to us on that?
Yeah, I can look into that. We just have to look at sight lines for the lifeguards. And until then, staff is always willing to assist as well, too. So.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Sims, for your report. A quick question on the stadium. You mentioned the stadium is closing April 21st. Is that just the ice surface, or is the entire building shut down? Do we not use the stadium at all for, floor hockey or anything in the summer?
For ice surface, yet lacrosse is eager to get in there as soon as the ice is out. So no, we do use it for other events.
Perfect. I appreciate that clarification. When I saw stadium closing, I'm like, surely we did not put all that effort to get it open in December, only to close it fully in April. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Talbot.
Yes, thanks, Ashley. Quick question. We took a decision last fall that we would fill in the drainage ditch at the ballpark, and I'm speaking specifically of the ditch that runs perpendicular to Prince Street. That was delayed until spring, so I'm just wondering if we have an approximate date when that work can get started.
I don't, but I will look into that for you.
Yeah, we're still sourcing material on that, so again, that's something that Public Works is currently looking at. So again, we don't have a date for you yet, but we are looking at that project and trying to advance it.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor Thomas.
And just wondering a question, Ms. Sims, about pickleball up at Douglas Street School. Still popular as ever?
Yeah, it's still popular. Unfortunately, during the summer months, we do have limited hours at the gym. But I know the Cougar Dome, and we do have an outdoor court near the Cougar Dome that people use as well.
Right. Like, I guess that was kind of the point I wanted to make. I'm very appreciative of the Cougar Dome in the sense that it does provide some very needed pickleball space. And so I just wanted to make that point, I guess. Just appreciate them. I know that we do give them a grant because of the service that they provide to the people of Truro. But, pickleball is I think it's still growing in popularity. And, without that facility, I think we would, there's a lot of people that use that as a pickleball courts.
They do. And at Douglas Street, it's very entry level. We don't have full-size courts. The walls are at the very end of the court. So as soon as people learn pickleball, they like to move over to another facility. So
Right,
we're
yeah.
lucky to have that. Yep.
Exactly, yeah. So serious players are all down at the Cougar Dome. That's my understanding. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. I actually have a meeting this week with some pickleball people, so I'm looking forward to that. I see no further questions, so at this time, Council, I would call for a motion to accept all the committee reports. Councillor Fleming, seconder. Councillor Pryor. All those in favor of accepting the reports today? Oh, Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think we skipped a couple of steps. One, discussion on the motion, and two, we did not get the chance to ask additional questions on the reports as we normally do.
Okay.
Which I believe, Mr. Council.
Go ahead.
No,
ahead.
You had a question? No. Apparently no more questions, but I wanted to make sure that we were following process. I didn't have any additional questions at this time. I'm saving those for the budget discussion.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so everyone has asked all the questions that they need to ask now? Councillor McGrath's keeping me in tow, I guess. All right, so all those in favor of accepting the report for our committee heads, please say aye. Councillor Fleming and Deputy Councillor Pryor. All in favor, aye. Okay, reports are accepted. Thank you very much, and thank you to all the directors for your reports today very much. Moving on to my favorite section, questions by members. Who would like to start? Oh, Councillor Talbot will start us out today.
Yep. I'm prepared to make a motion on the CAP assessment program, but I did want to take a couple of minutes and give you a little background. I'm going to give you a short quote from a study that was done by Turner, Drake and Partners Limited. They're a real estate consulting firm. One of the biggest issues with the CAP is that it doesn't discriminate between homeowners with high levels of wealth or low levels of income. The property owner who hasn't seen much of a rise in the market value of his or her property will end up having to pay higher tax rates in the long run in order to subsidize their properties, which have increased significantly in value, but are only being taxed at a much lower capped value. And this problem will get worse over time. This has been an ongoing issue. It has been before NSFM for a number of years. It's been in place since 1995. The province doesn't seem to have a lot of will to change it. So my motion would be it resolved that council requests staff to prepare a letter to petition NSFM to lobby the provincial government to review the CAP assessment program with a view to eliminating the inefficiencies and unintended consequences that are inherent in the program.
Thank you, Counselor. So a motion's been made by Counselor Talbot. I'm looking for a seconder to that motion. Counselor McGrath? Discussion, Council? Counselor Fleming? No, I'm turning off. Oh, you're fine for now? Counselor McGrath?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I support the councillor's motion. I do think, we have heard so much about the unfairness and the inequity in the CAP system. Somebody who has stayed in their home for a long number of years gets off better than someone who maybe had needed to move. And because they've had to move, now they've had that cap lifted. They pay a higher tax on what would essentially be the same property as, say, their neighbor, but because of the cap system, two identical properties would have wildly different, not tax rates, but tax amounts necessarily being applied there. So I think it's a great idea for us to support that motion, to have NSFM look into talking to the province to see about, leveling the playing field and allowing some lateral movement even in the housing market. That's one of the additional factors in our housing and affordability crisis, is that sometimes people feel trapped in their homes. They would love to move, but they don't want to have to pay the higher tax when they move, so they're stuck in maybe an overhoused situation because of that tax situation.
Thank you. I do agree with that part of it. When the cap is removed, when somebody buys a new property, it's not fair. And I do hope that people are aware that when they do sell their house and they buy another property, that cap is off for an amount of time. But I also know that a lot of people always say they're very thankful to have the cap because of the assessments are so completely high. And if there was no cap, I'm sure many of the towns would try to lower the tax rate. The thing is, with skeptics today and with government, would people trust that the towns would do that? And I think that's the thing. So I mean, we all know that the assessments are very, very high, and a lot of people are really, really struggling to stay in their homes. So I just wanted to make that point as well. I now have a comment from Deputy Mayor Thomas.
Yeah, I don't support the motion, but I would support, and I actually wrote NSFM, the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities, about doing a white paper, investigating a white paper maybe done by, we have many universities in this province that are very capable of doing this kind of research, to take a look at what is the proper rate of taxation. How much should any particular property pay for taxes? Because as taxes go up and they go to a point where they would just become too high, they start actually to hurt us. They hurt the community, not leaving people with enough money to invest in other things and maybe even do repairs on their properties, et cetera. It actually is a disincentive to economic growth. And so I would like to know when we get to that. As far as looking at these capped rates, I don't think it's the right thing to do, is to open up this can of worms and go after this without having something else in place. I think it's a mistake. This system does have a correction in it. When when a home is sold, the new owner will pay the total assessed value, more or less, and for the first year, and that's where it hurts, and then it's recapped after that. And so more expensive homes have a higher assessed value, and therefore those that have a nicer home actually end up paying more taxes. So there is it's all part of the formula. It actually works very well. It's not perfect. It is not perfect, and there probably is a better way to do it. But I don't support this motion at all. I think it would be a mistake to open up this can of worms without actually knowing what the effect would be of taking off the cap system, removing the cap system. And the other thing is just is not knowing what is the proper amount that anybody should pay for property taxes. So, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Councillor McGrath?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I could ask Councillor Talbot to perhaps read that motion again, because I'm fairly certain that his motion included looking into the details and the impacts. Basically, I think all the things that Deputy Mayor Thomas is concerned about, I think were contained within the motion. If I'm mistaken on that, then I would move to amend the motion to include that. But I think that's exactly what we're doing. We're looking for information here. Is that correct?
You're absolutely correct. The motion doesn't ask for cap to be thrown out. The motion basically asks for review to look at to eliminate the inefficiencies and the unintended consequences.
Right. Thank you.
The last part of that motion, though, Councillor Talbot, I think you read with the intent of removing the cap system.
No, I did not. I'll read it again.
Okay.
Be it resolved, the council requests staff to prepare a letter to petition NSFM to lobby the provincial government to review the cap assessment program with a view to eliminating the inefficiencies and unintended consequences that are inherent in the program.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Okay. So, Council, a motion has been made and seconded. I'm now going to call for the vote. All in favor of supporting the motion, say aye. Aye. Contrary minded? So we had 3 contrary minded and 3 in favor. Where do we go from here?
It's dead.
Yeah.
Tie vote results in the motion being
Being
defeated.
defeated, yeah. So the motion for that is defeated. I'm wondering, Councillor Talbot, if maybe when, I know we've got a mayor's meeting coming up, and you have my word that I'll bring this up again, but I'm just wondering if they could have more specific, I'd like to see maybe what's in place, what their options are when they look at this. Is there B, C, D, and what are they looking at in the CAP program? Maybe that would be something we could bring to the mayor's, I could bring to the mayor's conference.
Well, I don't know what that would bring, Madam Mayor, because I thought the motion was fairly clear, was to look at it, to examine the inefficiencies in it. So I don't know what more you could ask. Okay. I didn't recommend that it be thrown out. And if you want to go back and read that report, to Councillor Thomas's concern, they have a number of recommendations of other ways that would be more efficient than this tax. I mean, this thing has been on the agenda the whole 9 years that I've been involved in municipal politics, and there's nobody anywhere that supports it.
Okay. I'm going to bring that up at the mayor's conference for sure. Deputy Thomas.
Yeah, Mr. Talbot, could you send me that report, please? And I'll read that. Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, if I could, I believe the NSFM has an existing white paper when they originally lobbied the province back when it was previous Liberal government. And in fact, they had an all-party committee that was created. And I think they were very close to actually having an amendment made, and then that went away. But I'll see if I can actually get my hands on the NSFM report that was created, whether or not, I think it is a public document because it did go to the province.
Okay.
So I'll see if I can get my hands on that and share that with council if I can get a copy of it.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you very much. Councillor McGrath?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wonder, in addition to the white paper that Mr. Dolter's going to share, Councillor Talbot could also share that report, not just with the Deputy Mayor, but with all of council. That would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions by members? Councillor Fleming.
Thank you, Mayor Hinton. I just would like to have a quick comment, or make a quick comment, sorry, in regards to, I think we need policy as a council policy in regards to nonprofit investment in purchasing apartment buildings that are, and they're gonna offer below market rent. We have no policy for it. We've had some in the last couple of years. We've had a couple nonprofits attempting to, or looking at purchasing apartment buildings, and we have no policy to offer any kind of incentive or what have you. So I'd like to ask staff or Mr. Dolter to, if they can do some research into that and see where it goes.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. We've already, we've already started taking a look at some of that. Again, I think it's a fairly significant discussion, and certainly from a staff perspective, we do need some guidance from council on where they want to go. Although we don't have a policy at this point, approached by a nonprofit, it would be a decision of council. Once we had a chance to look at the particular case, we'll certainly talk to some of the other jurisdictions as well that have put programs in place to see what they used in order to do that. And then, sit down, and we can sit down with council, have some discussions on where we want to go in the, in the longer term.
Great, thank you.
Can we maybe schedule that meeting, Mr. Dolter, with council, just to get all our feelings on the table about that and where we move forward from here? So we're all on the same page with that. I appreciate that. Councillor McGrath?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We discussed this briefly earlier, and it's a great segue from Councillor Fleming's talk about affordable housing. But we talked during the planning report about writing a letter to the county, and I thought I would bring it up here in questions by members to get a more official sense of how council wants to move on this, on reaching out to the county on behalf of town staff to get their feedback on working together on the affordable housing framework, and perhaps some sort of policy around working with the nonprofits or housing co-ops would be part of that framework. It's certainly, I think, worth exploring.
Yes, I agree. And, I've certainly with cooperative housing, we've met with them. And one thing I think we're all in agreement of, we need money coming from the province. That's absolutely necessary to be able to do these kind of things. But we will have that meeting, Councillor Fleming, and we'll discuss it and put all our questions and feelings right on the table. I think it's time. Okay. I have a couple little things. I want to say that Nova Scotia Federation Municipalities are coming to Truro. They haven't been here since 2016. I remember Councillor Talbot and I, when we were first elected, we all showed up at the meeting. There's 49 municipal units. It was packed. It was the night after Trump was elected. He's back in office again, and they're coming back to town. I don't know what but it just seems ironic. And
having these meetings.
so we're really looking forward to seeing our counterparts, elected officials throughout the province, coming to Truro. We're going to show them a wonderful time, and we're proud to showcase our town, so we're thrilled about that. I also want to say that we raised the autism flag the other day, as you know, Mr. Dolter, and it was a very good turnout, and we certainly support that. And finally, on some very positive news, I want to congratulate David Westlick, who received the National Emergency Measures Exemplary Service Medal from the federal government, which is the highest recognition awarded for emergency management. Mr. Westlick is the Colchester EMO coordinator. He does a fantastic job, and I plan on having him into my office to present a certificate to him as well on behalf of Town Council. So I don't see any further questions for members today. So we're going to move on to item number 8, and that is new business. Number 8A, request for decision to set a public hearing date for 60 Gulf Street. Mr. Dolter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So development agreement with Tier 2 properties to permit a five-story multi-unit residential development consisting of 59 dwelling units with a mix of above and below ground parking on lands at 60 Gulf Street. That's PID 204528892. Again, so this is coming back to council. This property already has a development agreement, so this is a change to that plan. Again, so the Plan Advisory Committee has already concurred with the recommendation provided by staff report to proceed to a public hearing on this matter, and that was done on March 28th, 2025. And again, they recommend the council actually enter into a development agreement subject to stormwater management plan prepared by a licensed professional, approved by the town's Director of Engineering and Public Works, and landscaping plans being reviewed by the town's Urban Forestry Committee, and accepted by the town's development officer, and a traffic impact statement also being approved by the town's traffic authority. All be done prior to entering into any development agreement that would come from that process. So, so Madam Mayor, the proposed motion is be it resolved that council set a hearing date of May the 5th, 2025 to consider entering into a development agreement with Tier 2 properties to permit a 5-story multi-unit residential development consisting of 59 units with a mix of above and below grade parking on lands at 60 Gulf Street at PID 204-52892.
Thank you, Mr. Dolter. So I would now call for a motion to agree to that public hearing date for May the 5th, 2025. Councillor McGrath, Councillor Pryor. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Contrary minded, motion is carried. Thank you very much. Item 8B, request for decision approval of 2025-2026 operating and capital budget and tax resolution. I'm now going to ask the Director of Corporate Services to present her first budget to council today. As we like to call this is the big show. So here we go. Normally that title is reserved for Mr. McKinnon. During streets and sidewalks. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Hinton, council, staff, and guests. As Director of Corporate Services, I'm happy to present to you and our residents the draft general operating budget and general capital budget for 2025-2026, along with the draft water operating and capital budgets. These budgets are presented for your consideration and approval. Before reviewing this year's budget, I'd like to take a moment to recap some of the significant investments made during the 2024-25 fiscal year. The road preservation tax has allowed the town to provide cost-effective road rehabilitation before the conditions deteriorate to a point of requiring costly reconstruction. The road preservation tax for 24-25 has allowed the town to preserve sections of such streets as Melrose Terrace, Royalty Street, Edgewood Drive, McCormick Road, Lyman Street, Parkdale Avenue, and Glassy Avenue. In addition to the work completed under the road preservation tax, Phillips Street saw significant upgrades, including new water and sewer mains and repaving. Late in 2024, new sidewalks and curbs were installed on the east side Willow Street from Glenwood Drive to Abbey Avenue. Additional sidewalk and curbing will take place in this area in 2025. A high-priority repair for Leopard Brook Dam and Reservoir, including the spillway chute structure, was completed in 2024. This project helps prevent dam failure and allows for future growth. This project was cost-shared with the province of Nova Scotia. The town completed construction on a new roundabout at the intersection of McClure's Mill Road and Willow Street in November. The new roundabout is designed to ease traffic congestion at this busy intersection, which sees about 38,000 vehicles a day. It will help improve traffic flow, reduce accidents, and make travel times quicker for commuters. The town also updated old water infrastructure in the area. This project was made possible thanks to the support of several government partners. The Colchester Legion Stadium reopened after more than 2 years of repairs and restorations following the extensive damage caused by Hurricane Fiona in 2022. Extensive work was done to restore and upgrade the facility, including essential systems like HVAC, electrical, and life safety, ensuring the stadium meets modern standards. The installation of a new ice plant and other upgrades were key components of the renovation. The TAC Ground Revitalization Project, which began in 2023, is nearing completion after continuing through 2024. This exciting project includes the redevelopment of the grounds on Gulf Street and the creation of a new senior baseball field on Argus Drive. The project has been generously supported by our federal and provincial government partners, receiving $5.87 million from Investing in Infrastructure Canada Fund to help fund the project. Additional support came from a strong community fundraising effort and from the town of Truro and the municipality of the county of Colchester. In March 2025, Council voted to rename the TAC grounds to the No. 2 Construction Battalion Athletic Facility to honor the significance of the battalion on the site. The site was the training and drilling grounds for the No. 2 Construction Battalion. The new development will include a memorial to commemorate the battalion and will include educational panels that highlight the history of the site, including the battalion and Truro Amateur Athlete Club. A renaming ceremony will take place during a grand reopening event expected to take place on August 1st, 2025. These are just some of the accomplishments the town had in 2024-25, and I encourage everyone to take a look at the recently published year in review, which is now available on our website. This publication has more detailed review of our achievements in the past year. For all municipalities, the primary source of revenue comes from property taxes, both residential and commercial. Like all other organizations, Truro is not immune to the realities of cost inflation. The costs of operations and other financial commitments continue to increase, creating pressure to maintain a balanced budget. The property tax assessment increases have helped offset some of these costs and have allowed us to move forward without having to increase the tax rate to meet our financial projections. This year, our residential assessments increased 8.5%, while our commercial assessments decreased by 0.1%. While this sounds like a healthy revenue increase, it is offset in part by increased mandatory payments to the provincial government that also fluctuate with assessment value. Net of this payment, property tax revenue has increased 2.8%. In recent years, the town has pursued ambitious capital plans, and we are now beginning to see the results take shape. The stadium rebuild, the McClure's Mill Roundabout, and the former TAC Grounds revitalization project in particular consumed a substantial amount of staff time and significant financial resources. However, these state-of-the-art facilities and new infrastructure add significant value to the town's balance sheet. Despite these financial challenges, the town will continue to invest in key areas to ensure our community continues to offer a high quality of life for its citizens and that Truro continues to be a great place to live and work. This budget year, we propose a capital budget of $12,998,340, which is offset in part by $3,714,633 in provincial and federal grants, donations, and other funding sources. A significant portion of this budget is to complete projects started in previous years. The former TAC Grounds revitalization project is nearing completion, but still has a cost of $3.7 million to be incurred this budget year, $1.4 million coming from our funding partners. The remaining sidewalk and street curbing on Willow Street is budgeted to be $810,000 and is funded by the Sustainable Services Growth Fund. The town will be undertaking a major street upgrade on Cobblequid Drive this year at an estimated cost of $2.7 million, half of which is funded by the provincial government. This project involves the recapitalization of approximately 575 meters of Cobblequid Drive, including installation of a new 125-meter bypass storm sewer line, replacement of approximately 575 meters of existing sanitary sewer main line, placement of new concrete curb, street reshaping, and asphalt paving. This project will improve the stormwater management of the neighborhood, improve the sustainability of the sanitary sewer system of the area, and recapitalize the neighborhood street. The funds collected from road preservation tax are used specifically to resurface and protect town roads that are currently in fair condition to ensure that these streets do not fall into further disrepair. The town uses a ranking system to rate the condition of the streets to determine which streets get done each year. The streets identified for this upcoming year are sections of Willow Street, Prince Street, and George Street. The street resurfacing will cost approximately $617,000. In addition to the road preservation funds, there is $870,000 planned spending on street recapitalization. Our proposed budget for the 2025-26 year is $39,842,873. This represents an increase of 5.5% over the 2024-2025 budget. Council and senior staff work closely to produce this year's proposed budget. Our focus was to ensure that there was adequate expenses to move the strategic plan forward while controlling costs, maintaining service levels, and making sure we are taking advantage of available funding where possible. The town's largest expenses is wages. All wage increases are tied to collective agreements. The wages budgeted are based on contracted increases in existing collective agreements in place or estimates for those still under negotiations. As previously mentioned, another significant increase is expenses to the provincially mandated payment to the school board. The calculation is influenced by tax assessments and has increased significantly over last year's budget. Due to the increased cost pressures mentioned already, and from inflation affecting the general cost of operations, this budget is projecting a decrease in transfers to reserves over prior year by approximately $648,000. Given the ongoing rise in tax assessment, the town is recommending no change to the residential or commercial tax rate at this time. To help offset the rising costs of maintaining our sewer infrastructure, we are, however, proposing a 5-cent increase to the sewer charge for the 2025-26 operating budget. Residents consuming less than 1,250 cubic meters of water will see a 5-cent increase in the sewer rate from 80 cents to 85 cents. Residents consuming more than 1,250 cubic meters of water will see a 5 cents increase from 17 to 22 cents. This equates to an annual increase of approximately $24 for the average family, or $6 annually for the average individual. We are also proposing an increase to the deed transfer tax from 1% to 1.5%. This slide shows the various sources of revenue for the town and budgeted amounts compared to prior year budget. And this slide shows the expenses by department compared to prior year's budget. These details will be posted to the town's website once the budget is approved. Water rates are regulated by Nova Scotia Utility Review Board, and there are no changes budgeted for 2025-26. Water rates have not changed since 2015. The operating budget totals $4,991,487, which represents a 5.5% increase over prior year's budget. A rate study will be completed this upcoming budget year, as current rates are not sufficient to cover the annual operating costs and to reserve funds for capital. This year's capital budget is $396,000 and is primarily focused on equipment upgrades. This brings me to the end of the presentation. I will now propose a motion to approve the 2025-26 operating capital and water budget as presented.
Go forward.
And that is the proposed motion, Madam Mayor.
Oh, that's
Is
it.
that-
Okay, I was waiting for the
Sorry.
whole thing to approve it.
So, yeah.
So are we going to do it in segments of
No, this particular, again, for this, typically we'll just approve those three budgets at once unless there's any specific alterations that council wants to make to the motion.
So I'm going to call for the motion, and then we can have our discussion. So Councillor Fleming, you are making the motion. And seconded, Councillor McGrath. Now we're going to have a discussion on our budget. Council, questions? Councillor McGrath?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Russell, for the presentation. Are you able to dig a little bit more into the school board transfers? That's not something I remember discussing at last year's budget. The increase, I don't know if we can go back a few slides, the increase to residential tax revenues, I believe you said, was 8.5%. There was a decrease in commercial. There it went. Residential assessments increased 8.5%. Commercial assessments decreased 0.1%. But the mandated provincial payments increased 19.6% over the prior year budget. So of that 8.5% increase less the 0.1% decrease of commercial, what is our actual increase to the town?
Like increase in revenue, sorry?
Yeah, the increase in revenue, either as a dollar figure or a percent. Like if we're looking, because I'm imagining people in the gallery or constituents are going to reach out and say, hey, the assessments have gone up 8.5%. why isn't the overall budget going up by 8.5%, especially when you said that the transfers to reserves is actually going down?
Right. So the overall, for property taxes, net of the school board payment, there's $731,000 increase budget in revenue for property taxes, which is the 2.8%.
So that's a 2.8% increase in the school board transfers?
No, sorry.
That's-
That was net of the school board transfers.
Net
So
school board.
residential property tax went up $1.3 million.
Okay.
And then there's some, like, commercial property tax went down $15,000. And then the school board appropriation went up $569,000. So of the 1.3, if you offset the 569, like, that's where I'm getting the 700.
Okay, and then that's mandated by the province. The school board transfer has nothing to do with increase in enrollments. It has everything to do with assessment value.
That's correct.
That's mind-boggling to me. I want to dig into the budget a little bit more on the specific capital projects, specifically anything that's supporting active transportation. Do we have those capital projects listed? Like, I know Mr. McKinnon has previously indicated that on the south end of Willow Street, there is room, you know, in the work that's being done, room is being left for active transportation. And then at some point, once all of that work is done, once the last piece is done, you're going to put in one connected piece of AT rather than doing it piecemeal. Do we have any numbers or details on projects that support the active transportation plan as well as the rest of the capital that needs doing?
We have the numbers and details in the report that Harborside just gave us. As far as this year's budget goes, the only thing being done would be the reserve areas left on the areas of construction on Willow Street. But there's no concrete, pardon the pun, active transportation projects for this fiscal year.
Yeah, and if I could, Madam Mayor, one of the issues with that is given the other two major projects we have, both the stadium and completion of the number 2 construction battalion field and the Argus Street baseball complex. Again, that's taking some additional capital dollars. So going into 26, 27. We'll probably have an opportunity to plan some, or look at some of the active transportation projects. And one of the other issues is that, obviously, engineering assessment and that was just presented to council was just received, and we knew these other things were coming on. So that's the reason why, we said for this year we're going to finish off the Willow Street project, and then we'll look at 26, 27 to see if we can actually start moving towards some of the projects on the active transportation side.
Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Dolter, but with all due respect, I believe you said the same thing to us last year, and we find ourselves in the same position. I really want to highlight that active transportation is more than just bikes. It's not just, oh, let's get some people moving on bikes. It is improved physical and mental health. Anybody who's been to the hospital recently or who's been sick knows that the wait times at the hospitals are at times atrocious. I have been there overnight just to get an x-ray on a thumb. And it's ridiculous the amount of time having spent there. Improved health is critical to our community. We've got all the environmental benefits of active transportation that align with the CEEP policies that we've put in place, the solar garden that we're looking at with Cumberland County. There's the reduced traffic congestion, which is going to be critical, especially with so much development happening in town. We do have a lot of more people potentially moving into town. Addressing that congestion, if everybody is expected to get around by an expensive private motor vehicle, the congestion is going to choke this down. And I mentioned expensive motor vehicle. The cost of private vehicle ownership, it keeps climbing rapidly. We talk a lot here about affordability with homes and the affordability crisis. We are not immune to it ourselves. I know Mr. McKinnon had mentioned that, for the amount budgeted this year for capital projects, years ago, we would have had a list 3 times that length. So I know we are not immune, but we have to recognize that the rest of the town is also facing that. And if we can eliminate even just 1 car trip a week, if somebody could take public transit or active transit and save themselves that bit of money, every little bit helps. It contributes to more attractive and more livable communities. We want people to want to live here. We talked about the affordable housing, working in conjunction with the county and making sure that we're not driving development elsewhere, but by having more attractive and livable communities, people want to be here. Even if it's at a small premium, people will want to live in Truro. They'll be looking at Truro and going, that's where I want to be. And that's where we need to be pushing. And I really am concerned, that council priorities, this plan was approved 2 years ago, and yet it still seems like we are going nowhere with it. That concerns me. When we talk about safety, every councillor in this room has talked about speeding at one point or another. If we are adding active transportation lanes and able to narrow the existing lanes, guess what? Narrower lanes lead to slower traffic, leads to a safer community for everybody, for motorists, for pedestrians, for cyclists. We look at Chief McNeil's report with the 31 collisions this month, and that's about an average. It seems to be about 1 a day or a little bit more on average since I've been on council and paying attention to those reports. We want to have a safe, livable, affordable, and walkable community for everybody. It is not just bikes, it is safety, it is equity, and it is accessibility.
I do know, Councillor, that our CAO and I had a discussion about this the other week, and it is with a heavy heart that we know that we can't really do this right this year. I will say that, and we had a big discussion on this. It's been with costs of everything else, and that's one reason I always ask with developments to go in to put a car share program in to cut down on things like that. So there's the bottom line is this, straight up. It's frustrating. I was at those active transportation community meetings, and I know it was very positive, and the energy in the room was palatable. It was good, positive. And it's hard when we have to sit here and make decisions when we know right this year. Now, I think maybe next year, I'm not a mind reader, but once we're over budget on certain things, and sometimes costs can't be helped. These things happen. And hopefully next year we will be able to do something. But I do want to say this to you, that I know with the heavy heart, the CAO and I did sit down and talk about this. It's just, this year, it's just not feasible. And I know that's not easy to hear, and it's not easy but it's not, any one of us who sit up here, we have to make tough decisions, and it's not easy, and it's hard, because some people are not going to get what they want. And I was at that meeting, and I appreciate your frustration and concern. I do.
Madam Mayor, I do want to remind council, though, and Councillor McGrath in particular, that we're putting in $890,000 in sidewalk. Sidewalk walking is part of active transportation.
Yes.
So people want to say we're doing nothing. No, we've got a $1 million project that's going to improve safety, allow people to walk down Willow Street where they're currently walking on dirt or beside a very busy road, and they're now on sidewalk. Not ideal, obviously, some more, bike-friendly transportation is what we are aiming for. But again, community should recognize that there's over, almost $1 million in sidewalk going in that area, which didn't exist before. So again, I think it is a major step forward, and we should recognize that.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor Fleming.
Thank you, Mayor Hinton. I'm gonna talk about sewers and the 5-cent increase. Through to Mr. McKinnon, I guess. My first question is the rates, and I obviously pay this sewer rate, but I don't understand. 1,250 centimeters. What's that? Centimeters of what?
That's cubic meters of water consumption.
Okay.
So it's billed it's ratioed out based on how much water you use, how much sewer you produce.
So I pay
So-
for the water coming in, then I pay for the sewer going out.
That's
You pay
right.
for the
And the
same
wa-
water
and the
twice.
water going in is paid to the water utility, and the sewer charges for the general budget. And it's only a small offset of our actual sewer costs. It's not 100%.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know that. So there is not another, something attached to the sewer that says how much is going out. It's just how much water I use. Obviously comes in, it's gotta go out somewhere. So it's not really sewer, it's just wastewater, it's everything that comes and goes. Now, 1,250, would that be average for like a household of what?
That is, most residents use a lot less than that per quarter.
Okay, per quarter.
Yes.
Okay, now that brings me to my next, so I pay 85 cents per 1250? No. Well, with the 5 cent increase. It's going from 80 to 85 for the first
Yeah,
1250.
but your quarterly water bill, you may only use 30 or 40 cubic meters.
Yeah, okay, but my comment is the next level, people who use over 1250, they're going from 17 to 22 cents.
Correct, and those are your larger industrial users. And,
Why would big apartment buildings pay less than I do?
that's for the amount over 1250. They pay the same amount as you up to the 1250.
Correct.
And then the amount they have over that, they pay
And they get a
less.
huge discount after that, less
they-
than half price.
Well, they get a huge discount, but they also a lot of water, and it still turns out to be a very large bill. So they pay the same amount as you up to the 1250. They
Yeah, I
only
get
pay
that, I
less
get
for
it,
after.
but I wonder why they have to pay, I wonder why
Well,
they
it's-
get such a reduction afterwards, when I would think this day and age, we'd want to encourage water reduction in different places.
Well, that'd be a whole other presentation in itself to get into the math of whether we want to do that or not, because that would really hamper a lot of our industries in town if we had those kind of huge impacts to their bills.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. So just for clarification, Director Russell, if this budget is approved today, for a family, if we approve this rate, the sewer charge rate, so it's $24, it would be about $24 more per year?
That's correct.
Okay. And for an individual, about $6 more per year?
Correct.
Okay. And, Mr. Dolder, do you just want to clarify for people listening about, when we talk about taxes and why there's never enough tax dollars, just why, just a little bit about the mandated school board taxes, how we have no choice but to pay those. And
Yeah.
didn't we say that we were going to try to reach out and see if we can get a letter or just something to see
Yeah.
if we can get a,
When, there's an upcoming Association of Municipal Administrators meeting with CAOs coming up in May. It's an issue that I'm going to bring to the floor of that. We have a CAOs roundtable, and I'm going to look for general support in bringing an amendment forward. Clearly, we do recognize, I don't think we're going to get the province to change the fact that the schools are covered for a large part through property tax. However, I think there does have to be a review of how that's calculated. And I think Councillor McGrath mentioned, the per capita or whatever school enrollment. I think they do have to look at different methodology, because clearly there's no direct correlation between the assessment of a property going up and the cost of schooling or school board support going up. So again, I think there should be some questioning on that to see if there's any appetite for the province to revisit the formula and accordingly give us a break on that, because again, increased assessment shouldn't mean such a great increase in our school fees.
indeed, and I look forward to hearing what comes out of that. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Thomas.
Yeah, Mr. Dolter, can you tell me if I turn down the sewer or turn down the deed-transfer tax, in order to do that, do I have to turn down the budget?
No, because we are actually going to approve as a separate motion. You're going to approve the rates. So once the budget's approved, you'll approve the rates. If you don't approve the rates, then we will have to make an amendment to the budget itself.
Right, I understand those figures too. I've looked at them and I understand the figures as
Yeah.
well, the amendment that will have to be made.
Yeah, so that, the rates would be, are through a separate motion.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll wait, I have a couple of comments on the rates.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Okay, so we've had our motion, and we've had our seconder, we've had our discussion. So are you going to bring a motion for each rate, or how do you want to do that?
So, Madam Mayor, we do need to, we should vote on the budget first, and then
Okay.
I'll bring the resolution for the rates.
Okay.
Or I could do the resolution for the rates first, and then, well, we still end up having, either way, we're gonna have to amend the budget if all the rates don't get approved,
Okay.
so.
So you want to,
We'll approve, I prefer that we approve the budget first. The
Okay.
motion's on the floor now, been seconded.
All right,
So
and
we
so
have-
all those in favor? You've heard the budget, you've heard the motion, you've heard the seconder, the discussion. You're all those in favor of approving the budget? Aye. Contrary minded? Okay, the budget is approved. Thank you very much. Moving on, Mr. Dolter.
So, thank you, Madam Mayor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring through the tax resolution motion. I will read each of them individually, and I guess we'll get, because there could be some that are more controversial. So each of those will be a separate motion and seconder and approval. So the first one is the tax rates for 2025, 2026. Be resolved that the estimated expenditures of the town of Truro for the period of April 1st, 2025 to March 31st, 2026 be approved and adopted in the amount of $39,842,873, and after making allowances for estimated revenues in the amounts of $9,435,441 and the amounts of $30,407,432 is required for the general taxation assessment valuation of $1,208,235,800. So make that, I just need someone to make that motion and to second it.
Okay, so council, we need a mover. Councillor McGrath, a seconder. Seconder, Councillor Pryor, discussion? No discussion? Oh, okay,
I just have clarity, please, on that, just clarity. I'm sorry, I was looking to see the presentation and I missed some of what you did. I apologize for that.
just reread that motion again, Mr. Dolter, if you don't mind.
Make me read those big numbers again.
Yeah.
Be it resolved that the estimated expenditures of the town of Truro for the period of April 1st, 2025 to March 31st, 2026 be approved and adopted in the amounts of $39,842,873, and after making allowances for estimated revenue in the amount of $9,335,441 and the amounts of $30,407,432 is required for the general taxation of the assessed value of $1,208,235,800.
Okay, council, we've had a mover by Councillor McGrath, we've had a seconder, Councillor Pryor. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Oh, Councillor McGrath, you have a question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It is nitpicky, but Mr. Dolter, could you read that total revenue number again, the $39,800,000?
$39,842,873.
Okay, it's just because what I see on my screen is a total revenue of $39,842,872. It is only the matter of a single dollar, but for when we are listing it to the exact dollar, I assume it's important to have it correct.
Well, we will call that rounding, and I put the dollar on the table if we're out.
Thank you, Mr.
So, yeah,
Dolter.
it's just rounding. But I do agree that two numbers should match, but it is the same number, just rounded differently.
Okay. Deputy Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Dolter, could you just explain to me and about the deed transfer tax and the sewer tax, because the totals that you've given us include the increases.
Yes.
So when I vote in favor of that, what am I voting for?
Well, you're voting for the motion that was originally presented in the presentation. However, if the rates are not approved, then we'll have to adjust the budget accordingly.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you, Deputy. So again, I'm going to call for a motion. All those in favor of approving the budget, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? That is approved.
Okay,
Mr.
so
Dolter, you're moving on to
next
the
item
next
is a
one.
residential rate, $1.85 per $100 of assessment. Therefore, be it resolved, the council authorize the levying and collection of a rate for the current year of $1.85 per $100 of assessment for residential and resource property, that rate being hereafter referred to as the residential rate.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion. Councillor Fleming. Seconder, Councillor Pryor. Discussion, Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With regard to the tax rate, I know this was something we discussed during our budget deliberations, was trying to compare the tax rate of the town to the tax rate of the county. Now, especially in light of earlier discussions about trying to maintain equilibrium, or at least not driving more development and residential use to the county. Everybody always says the county rate is much lower, but there's probably not taking into account the area rates. Now, I know we tried to do, some of us tried to do some math at that meeting. I don't know if anybody ever came out with some solid numbers on an actual comparison of the urban areas of the county, what their actual tax rate compares to, or how their tax rate compares to ours. Did anybody happen to finish that calculation?
It is less. I can't give you the exact figure. It does, unfortunately, living in the county, it does depend on where you are, because even the urban rate there are some variances depending on, for example, if you're in Valley, you pay a different rate because the fire assessment is different than Bible Hills. Again, it is very much all over the map. The town rate is above, again, I can't give you an exact amount, and again, it does depend on where you live. Bible Hills rate comes a little bit closer, but I think it's somewhere, and Andre, Ms. Curry is providing a cheat sheet there. I think the Bible Hill comes in I'm going to guess around 170 or something in that range, but I may be wrong.
What I'm looking at here is Turo's is 190.25. That includes the extras. Compared to Bible Hill is $1.5850. Valley 133.1. And New Glasgow $1.84.
Oh yeah, New Glasgow's $1.84. So New Glasgow is probably more comparable to us, and they're very close to us as well. So.
And so net result is that it is not as cheap tax-wise to live in the county as a lot of people seem to claim.
Well, the other thing that has to be, and again, this is the whole argument on HRM as well too. Although the tax rate in some cases may be less, the assessment value is higher. So when you actually look at the overall tax bill, you're living in the county, but your assessment is probably higher. So you're for a similar property. So again, you can decide whether or not you're further ahead. But in the end of the day, you're likely to be paying close to the same amount of tax because of just the difference in the assessment. So again, it depends. It's a difficult argument, and then we can get into, for the tax dollars, what services are being delivered. And certainly, I would gladly argue that town services far exceed what the town provides than what the County of Colchester provides to their residents, because much of the services that are providing to county residents actually are provided by the province, not provided by the county itself. So again, it's not apples to apples for sure. It's very difficult to make that comparison.
Mm-hmm. And that's a great point that, we in town, as we just discussed, we maintain the roads and the sidewalks, but in the county, that's handled by the province.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Council, motions has been made by Councillor Fleming. It's been seconded by Councillor Pryor. We've had our discussion. All in favor of approving the motion for the rates, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded? That motion is passed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next item is the commercial rates, $4.50 per $100 assessment. Be it further resolved, the council authorize the levying and collection of a rate for the current fiscal year of $4.50 per $100 of assessment for commercial property. That rate hereafter referred to as the commercial rate.
Thank you, Mr. Dolter. I need a motion, please. Councillor Fleming, seconder. Seconder? Councillor McGrath? Discussion, council. No discussion? Oh, Lord. Okay, I'm shocked about that. Okay, so we have our motion made by Councillor Fleming, seconded by Councillor McGrath. There's no discussion on this. All in favor of the commercial rate, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded? Commercial rate approved.
So the road preservation tax residential rate, 5.25 cents per $100 assessment. Be it further resolved, the council authorize the levying of a collection of a rate for the current year of 5.25 cents per $100 assessment for the residential property, that rate being hereafter referred to as the residential road preservation rate.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dolter. Motion, please. Motion? Councillor McGrath, seconder. Councillor Pryor? Discussion? No discussion. Okay. Motion's been made. All in favor of supporting the motion for the road preservation rate, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded? Road preservation rate has been approved.
For commercial, yes. Next item is the sewer rate. That is 85 cents per cubic meter under 2,550 cubic meters and 22 cents per cubic meter over 1,250 cubic meters. So be it further resolved, the council authorize the levying and collection of a rate for the current year of 85 cents per cubic meter of water consumed under 1,250 cubic meters on a quarterly billing, and 22 cents per cubic meter of water consumed over 1,250 cubic meters on a quarterly billing for the current year. The rate being hereafter referred to or called the sewer rate.
Thank you, Mr. Dolter. I'm calling for a motion. Councillor Tabbitt, seconder. The boys on the right. Councillor Fleming. Discussion? Any discussion on the sewer rate? Deputy Mayor Thomas.
When did we last have an increase in the sewer rate?
Again, I believe it was 2016? Yeah, last increase was 2016.
Okay, it's been quite some time, I just want to remind people, though, and I'll bring up these figures again when I talk about the deed, deed transfer tax, because that's attached to assessment value. So if you go back into the consolidated statements of operations, when I first started on council in the year 2020 and 2021 budget year, the assessable property tax and sewer rate was $19.8 million. And, sorry, that was the year before, it was $20.8 million. It went up just steadily, and then in 2023, 2024, it jumped to 24.2 from 22.5. Last year, it jumped to 29.4. That's my little calculations, and where it's going today is 31.4. That's a 50% increase since I've been on council in income from taxpayers and property tax and sewer rates. It's high, and because the sewer rate isn't paid for sewers, it goes into general revenue because of that, and because taxes have gone up so much. And I talk to a lot of people. A lot of people are concerned about this. And I know a lot of people, including myself, are very concerned about the uncertainty of the economy, and that we're probably heading into a period of stagnation. Who knows? But stagflation. And if we are into a period of stagflation, you know, this council next year is going to be faced with a real decision on rates, I believe. A real decision on rates, because we could see property values decrease. and we're only seeing costs increase. So it's going to get difficult here, I do believe, in the future. But right now, I do believe that we need to give as much grace to our taxpayers as possible. So I believe that we can meet the needs of the town without these two increases because of the fact that we've collected the amount of income we've collected from taxpayers, and mostly property tax owners, not the commercial ones, but mostly property tax owners, has increased substantially. And, you know, some of that is because of the buildings that have gone up, and that will increase. And we're going to see more money come in from the developments as they come online. So that's going to help us out too. So, you know, I want to be gracious to our taxpayers and not go for any increase this year on anything. And with the idea that next year, we're going to see, but we're facing a lot of economic uncertainty, and we all know the reason for that probably, but you know, it's difficult. So that's where I stand, because this, again, this rate goes into the general fund. It doesn't pay for sewers. It pays for sewers, but it goes into a general fund in which sewers are taken out of, and this fund does not pay for all the sewers, you know, work that needs to be done. So that's how I feel about it. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. That's why I did ask Director Russell about the cost per household for this rate, which was $26, which I know I don't like to ever increase anything. And I've been on council for 9 years, and I fought every time to never increase, to try never to increase the tax rate. It's hard. And I think until people realize that, I mean, there's so much dollars to go around, but I appreciate your passion and I know where you're coming from. I don't like to see any increases either. Unfortunately, sometimes it is necessary, but to hold the tax rate the same, I think is one thing we do agree on, and I think that's important. Councillor McGrath?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I mean, I agree with what you're saying, and I understand where the Deputy Mayor is coming from, but I just harken back to our budget discussions and the number of projects that were left off the table, the things that we will not be moving forward with this year due to the budget restrictions and limitations. I don't like to have to do these increases, but when we're looking at, you know, $24 per year for the average household, $6 per year for the average individual, I hope that's palatable for everyone. But I mean, as everybody knows and everybody's already mentioned, the cost of everything keeps going up. You know, our budget dollars do not stretch as far as they used to. And we are all looking for ways to ensure that the town continues to operate well and within budget.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Talbot?
Look, I don't think anybody likes to see a rise in taxes, but at the end of the day, we run the business here, we run the town, and things have to be paid for. And there's a level of service that the constituents demand. And I'm getting calls now about potholes everywhere. A lot of them we won't get to for the longest time. And we've done good in the 9 years that I've been here around holding taxes, but to the councillor's point, I mean, if you keep holding them, what do? Do you get into a Halifax situation where you go to the public and say, now we need 8% because we didn't ask for anything last year? So it's a slippery slope, and I would caution council to consider this very seriously.
Thank you, Councillor. I see no further questions. Mr. Dolter, we've had our motion, our seconder, our discussion. Council, all in favor of the sewer rate motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded? Contrary-minded, Councillor Thomas. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I'm going to take one step back in my haste to get to the bottom of the page. I missed one item.
Okay.
So the road preservation tax commercial rate, and that is 4 3/4 cents per 100. So be it further resolved, the council authorize the levying and collection of a rate for the current year of 4 3/4 per 100 of assessment for the commercial property. That rate hereafter be referred to as the commercial road preservation rate.
Okay. Councillors, I need a motion. Councillor McGrath, seconder. Councillor Talbot, discussion. No discussion. Okay, I'm calling for the vote. All in favor? Contrary-minded? Motion passed. Mr. Dolter?
So the next item is the solid waste uniform charge. Be it further resolved, the council authorize the levy and collection of solid waste uniform charge of $50 per residential dwelling unit to be applied as a solid waste charge for all dwelling units of 3 or less.
Thank you. Calling for a motion? Okay, Councillor Fleming, seconded. Councillor McGrath, discussion? No discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Contrary-minded? Contrary-minded? Motion's approved. Mr. Dolter.
Thank you. So be it further resolved that payments of rates and taxes set down for 2025-26 as accepted and approved by council shall be required to be made to the treasurer on or before the 31st day of October 2025.
That concludes our.
No, you have to approve those two.
Oh, I have to
Okay,
approve
yeah,
that as well.
that's,
I'm running out of steam here.
yes,
All right.
just, that's the day for
Okay.
payments to be due.
So I have to call for a motion for that?
Yes.
Councillor McGrath, Councillor Fleming. Discussion? No discussion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Contrary-minded.
So
Motion's approved,
two-
Mr.
Two more to
Dolter.
go, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Interest rate 15% per annum. An additional charge of a rate of 15% per annum shall be and is hereby imposed for non-payment of such rates and taxes by the, the 13th day of June 2025 on an interim bill, and at the same rate for non-payment of such rates of taxes by the 31st day, that's the 30th day of June, sorry, the 13th, sorry, not reading, it's getting long for me too, so I'm going to step back. So non-payment of such rates and taxes by the 30th day of June on the interim bill, and at the same rate for non-payment of such rates and taxes on the 31st day of October, 31st day of October 2025 on the final billing. Such interest will be added monthly after the due dates above.
Thank you very much. Calling for a motion. Councillor Fleming, seconder. Councillor Talbot? Yes. Okay. Discussion on this? No discussion? All in favor, council, please say aye. Aye. Contrary-minded? No? Motion is carried. Thank you, Mr.
And the last item, Madam Mayor, so be it further resolved, the council approve the Downtown Truro Partnership budget and area rate at 42 cents per 100 of commercial assessment to a maximum of $2 million in the designated area.
Okay. Council, the Downtown Truro Partnership budget, motion for Councillor Fleming, seconded Councillor McGrath. Any discussion on this? No discussion. Calling for the question. All in favor? Aye. Contrary-minded? Motion is carried.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the next item is an item for budget, but because of what it is, it has to be dealt with separately. So the next item with first reading for item 8C is the new deed transfer tax bylaw. So during budget deliberations, there has been discussion about raising the deed transfer tax from the current rate of 1% to 1.5%. The deed transfer tax applies to all transfers of property in town, subject to a very few exceptions, and is paid by every buyer of a property at the time of the purchase based on the sales price of the property being transferred. The current deed transfer tax rate is 1%, and it was established in 2009 when it was increased from 0.5%. The increased rate is to become effective on May 15th, 2025. That would be after the approval at the public meeting in May. Because the deed transfer tax is paid and collected based on transfers of property, the impact on revenue of this proposed change will be difficult to predict. Staff have conservatively estimated an additional revenue of $300,000 will result. That's if sales rates remain similar to the current year. The deed transfer tax must be set by bylaw. The proposed bylaw would repeal the existing deed transfer tax bylaw and implement a new rate of 1.5%. So, Madam Mayor, the proposed motion is to be resolved the council give first reading to a new deed transfer tax bylaw as outlined in the attached document, and that's provided for council's review that simply sets the rate, again, fairly straightforward.
Thank you, Mr. Dolter. I would call for a motion for the bylaw deed transfer tax. Councillor McGrath, seconded. Councillor Pryor, discussion? Councillor McGrath? I'll start with you. Councillor McGrath, we'll go to Deputy Mayor next.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and apologies, Deputy Mayor. When this first was brought up, I was opposed to the increase in the deed transfer tax. Again, when we look at the equity around the county increased their deed transfer tax to 1.5% in recent years. I understand many municipalities also have similar, and I was initially opposed to it until I started doing the math. And I talked to a number of realtors. According to the data I've been given, the average housing price in the town of Truro is $370,000. Under 1%, that would be $3,700 deed transfer tax. Changing that to 1.5% would bump that amount up by $1,850 to a total of $5,550. Now, I'm not a fan of additional taxes, as we've just discussed. But, a lot of the realtors say that people who are moving here are not going to be put off by an additional $1,800 on the price of a $370,000 home. They are moving here for other reasons, for job, for work, for the many amenities that we provide, for the joy of living in Truro. And I think of why I moved to Truro. And there's a lot great here. I don't know that $1,800 would have put me off, especially if we're looking at $3,700. So all that to say that basically I do approve the deed transfer tax increase based on the small numbers that I think we're going to see impacted.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I too gave some of this a thought, and I just rounded it off to 400,000. So we used to collect this year $4,000 is now going to go up to $6,000. Then I heard that it was 2015 that the 1% rate was adopted. 2015, that house was probably 200,000. So it was back then they'd be paying $2,000 for deed transfer tax. Now to that same house you're paying, $4,000. Yeah, so it's doubled, just as the price of housing has doubled in those 10 years or so. And now we're asking for a 50% increase. And I'm not so concerned about people that own a house and sell a house, and they're just transferring from one house to another. Those people have probably made a bit of a windfall, through the real estate market as they move from one property to another, because right across the country, assessed values have gone up. What I am concerned about, though, is first-time home buyers. I remember when I bought my first home, and I had to scrape together the $1,500 it cost to have the lawyer fees done. I had to scrape it together, every single penny. And so you're talking about $1,800. Well, that was 40 years ago. $1,800 is not what it was 40 years ago. But I'm telling you that for first-time home buyers, this is a bit of a barrier, because every penny counts when you're trying to put your money together to buy that first home. And that's why I will not vote in favor of this. And that's what I feel.
Thank you, Deputy. Council, a motion's been made and seconded. Are you ready for the question? I think I know some of the answers, but I will ask it anyway. Okay. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies, Councillor Fleming.
That's okay. I was
You're going to go.
late on
You're going to go in
late
the
on
jar.
the button there.
Yeah.
Is this
Yeah.
just for clarification? This
Yeah.
is the first reading, and the motion is for us to put it off till next month for the proper vote.
Yeah, this first reading, and then, you know, we'll obviously, yeah, it would come to the May meeting for the final.
We'll have
final
another
reading.
motion, an opportunity to discuss it then.
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you, I'll wait.
Thank you, Counselor. All those in favor of approving the motion, please say aye. Contrary-minded? Yeah, Deputy Mayor, contrary-minded. Thank you very much. I just want to say thank you so much to Ms. Russell for your first budget that you delivered today, and to our CAO, all our department heads and council. Much work goes into this, and it is not an easy task on all fronts. So bravo on your first budget, Ms. Russell. Okay, we're moving on to, well, all right, I've lost my spot.
Last item.
Okay, the last item, 8D, request for decision, construction site management. Mr. Dolter.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So the purpose of the construction site management policy is to establish a consistent framework for managing construction activities, ensuring safety, compliance, and effective site operations. This policy outlines the specific requirements of a construction site management plan, which is essential for maintaining organized, efficient, and safe practices throughout the duration of a construction project. It is designed to work in conjunction with the Town of Truro building bylaw under the Building Code Act, reinforcing regulatory compliance and promoting best practices in site management. So, Madam Mayor, the proposed motion is, be it resolved that Council adopt the construction site management policy as outlined in the attached document, which Council has in front of them.
Thank you, Mr. Dolter. I would call for a motion, please. Councillor Fleming, seconded Councillor McGrath. Any discussion on this, councillors? I have some discussion. Councillor Talbot.
Yes, Mr. Dolder, does this include the start and stop time for construction, or is that dealt with under a separate regulation?
Are you talking about the daily work that's
The
being
quiet
done?
hours, yes.
That's covered under basically under the noise bylaw. So how that can be conducted, I don't know, is there, Mr. Fox, you're tilting your head, so it may be in there, is it?
Correct, you're correct. It's covered under the noise
Yeah.
bylaw, and also there's the building bylaw the town has as well. So the
Yeah.
bylaw that you actually passed amendments to earlier today is where that's all covered.
Yeah, and I think council remember, you know, for example, the project on Lawrence Street specifically asked for an exemption to the policy in order to conduct concrete work after hours.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Thomas.
Yeah, I would think, I probably know, I think I know the answer to this, but projects under construction now, how does this apply to them?
If it's approved, I mean, we still, a lot of what's in here, we're already practicing. This is formalizing it and making a requirement, so we still, we still do go to sites. One of the things that, I know the issue you brought up about the hoarding around sites, that's something that we've been looking at for an extended period of time, but we didn't have a policy in place that could require it. So some of that will be updated, and, most of the contractors we have that are particularly coming out of the HRM area, are used to those policies and have been adopted some of those practices already, but it will help us enforce some of the things.
Well, I'm thinking of one project in particular, I won't mention where, because, well, there's probably 2 or 3 of them where if you step 10 feet, you could fall down 10 feet off the sidewalk. I mean, they're right against the sidewalk, and one particular, I'm thinking, got no barriers there. So what happens there? Will they be asked to comply to this new policy? Or
I mean,
will
if
they
there
be
is a
grandfathered in?
if there is a safety issue, we certainly would inspect the site, and again, I'll talk to Mr. Fox about it, but certainly would bring them in line with the policy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Council, a motion has been made, seconded. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of approving the construction site management motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded? The motion is approved. I want to say thank you to council, staff, our CAO, Mike Dolter, our solicitor, Charles Thompson, those present in council today, and those watching on Eastlink. This has been a long meeting of almost 3 hours, and our next public council meeting is going to be Monday, May 5th at 1 p.m. in council chambers. I would ask you to continue to be kind to each other and to our town. April 7th, 2025, town council meeting is adjourned at 4:03. Have a lovely and restful evening, everyone, and a safe and happy April. Thank you very much. We are adjourned.